This is 5 Live Formula One with Jenny Gow.
Hello, we have waited 100 days since the frenetic action of Abu Dhabi, and now F1 is back, and it's back in style. We are here in Bahrain for round one with new rules, new race directors, a new number on the grid, as well as lights shine down on this 5.4 kilometre track. The sun starts to set, and the bold red number one shines out from the front of Max Verstappen's Red Bull. He has chosen, for the first time in many years, since 2014, to run the champion number. But can he retain the championship? That's the big question. And I can tell you, after 6 days of testing, a day of practice, qualifying yesterday, it is the Ferraris who seem to have come out in force. It is Charles Leclerc in pole position as the big Gulf Air jet flies over our heads here, and the crowds to my left, wow, that is close for the jet to come to us. The crowds to our left all applaud. Jack Nicholls and Jaguar Formula E driver Sam Bird are in the commentary box for us for the first race of the season. And Jack, this is what it's all about. It's time to go racing and see what these cars can do around 57 laps of the Bahrain International Circuit.
Yeah, there's so many stories, so much to talk about over the next 57 laps, the next hour and a half, hour and 45 minutes. But overall, it's about who can win the Grand Prix and take the lead of the championship after race one. Yes, there's another 22 to go subsequently, but you want to get off the line as quickly as possible. So is it Ferrari? Is it Red Bull? It's not Mercedes and Hamilton.
Sam Bird, driver's point of view time, please. Charles Leclerc will start this race in pole position. He did it a couple of times last year, but it's been a while since a race win. He would dearly love to start the season off in some style.
Of course, Jenny, you want to start the year with a bang. You want to stamp your authority on this championship and prove to Max Verstappen, I'm here to fight. You know, I'm here to take the fight to Red Bull and to yourself, and that's what him and Ferrari will be trying to do, Jenny.
And let's not forget 2019, Charles Leclerc took a superb pole position very early on in his sort of career with Ferrari, was leading the Grand Prix comfortably, then had an electrical issue, and that cost him the win. So he's got a little bit of a redemption story in Bahrain just bubbling under there as well.
Just coming along as the band start to leave the grid, the lights that are blazing out, 5 lights, which will be the starting lights, really bold in this sky. And then to my right, just near his car, which is the number 16 Ferrari, is Charles Leclerc. He's got his balaclava on. He's just popping in his audio controls to make sure he has some line of communication with his team when he's out there. There's a lot to think about at this point, isn't there, Sam, for the drivers?
This is when you've spoken to your engineer, you've had a laugh with them, you've trying to relax on the grid, trying to take your mind away from things. But now I find that it's earplugs in, balaclava on, laser beam focus on the job in hand and what you're going to do. You're focusing on visualizing what you need to do in order to get to the first corner in the best possible position from where you're starting.
So I want to walk through the grid with you, and it's a point of interest to say that the drivers
find that it's earplugs in, balaclava on, laser beam focus on the job in hand and what you're going to do. You're focusing on visualizing what you need to do in order to get to the first corner in the best possible position from where you're starting.
So I want to walk through the grid with you, and it's a point of interest to say that the drivers are finding it incredibly hard to see their starting grids here. So what they've done is painted an extra yellow line, which is a 4-metre line on the grid, just to make sure they can see them. Jack, the cars do look different, don't they?
Yeah, they are. Well, there's lots of regulation changes. The wings are different. The way that the downforce is generated is different, and as a result, they all look completely different to the cars of last season. Some have got different colour paint jobs as well. And they also look quite different to each other. We've seen the Mercedes that has basically sort of no side pods. The Ferrari side pods are big and wide with a big opening on the front. So it is different. And the issue they're having is all of the cars now have these sort of fairings on the inside of the wheels, so little sort of fins that stick up in between the car and the front wheels, and that's just obscuring their view when they're coming to line up on their grid spot, because they're basically sitting on the floor, so it's quite tricky to position the car on that front.
Could be a lot of carnage as well going into this first lap, because we know that the front wings are very different. They flick up at either end, and the drivers haven't done a race in these cars. Some of the engineers we're speaking to says this will be a race of attrition. How many cars will actually finish? That's a question. 10 minutes to go until the race starts. Charles Leclerc just being strapped into his car in pole position now. So I'll just walk you through the grid. We've got Leclerc to my right. Then if I walk 7 meters precisely, because it's precise in Formula One, on my left it's Max Verstappen. He's just putting his balaclava on, a little bit late actually. He's got a great helmet this year. It's got a golden kind of feel to it, but it's pure white and it just looks fantastic. So that's your front row. Come a little bit further down is Carlos Sainz. He's just getting into his car now, and he'll be flanked to his side by Sergio Perez. So it's a Red Bull and Ferrari mixed up front four. Then to my right, I just see Angela, Lewis Hamilton's trainer. She gives me a little nod of the head as she makes sure Lewis is kept nice and cool in his car. So that Mercedes in 5th spot. He's gone back to a nice kind of bright yellowy, blacky purple helmet now, which is of his old karting days, saying it's all about new beginnings. So there we go. To my left, former teammate Valtteri Bottas in the number 77 car, but it's not a Mercedes, it's an Alfa Romeo this year. I'll carry on down the grid quickly because we've got a Haas. Jack, it's a Haas, and it's up here.
This is your cardio for the day, isn't it, Jen? I'm impressed. Yeah, Kevin Magnussen starting 7th on the grid for the Haas team. The Dane doing a superb job. He only came back into Formula One fairly late in the day because Nikita Mazepin, the Russian driver for Haas, lost his seat after Russia's invasion of Ukraine. And Magnussen parachuted back in, did a tremendous job yesterday, 7th on the grid.
And the Haas looking a pretty impressive car, and we haven't said that for a while, so that's good to know. In fact, Günther Steiner's just here. I'm going to try and grab a word. Günther, this is fantastic for you. Magnussen all the way up here in 7th. How hopeful are you that this season's your season?
It's not our season. I mean, for sure it will be better than last year because it cannot be worse. No, I really look forward to the season, so that we have a good one. I mean, the whole team deserves it. I mean, they did a great job over the last years to just stick with it and wait for this moment in 22.
And Kevin Magnussen back with the team. He had a great qualifying, P7. How's he feeling ahead of the race? He hasn't been in a race car here for a little while.
Yeah, but he's fine. I mean, he's just like Kevin, you know, he's cool. You know, it's on the other side of the pillow, you know.
Love it. I'll get you get underway. Thank you so much. So it's the Haas there next to the big pink car, which is Fernando Alonso in P8. I'm going to get kicked off the grid. Hopefully I can make it down. George Russell starting in P9, his first full-time gig for Mercedes. And then in 10th place, it's Pierre Gasly in the AlphaTauri. I'll just whiz down the rest. It's Ocon, Schumacher, Norris. McLaren's having a terrible qualifying session of it. What can they do in the race? Albon, P14, the top Williams. Then a new driver comes in Zhou Guanyu. Sam, he's the only rookie this year.
He is indeed. I was impressed with what he did yesterday. It's got to be difficult coming in with the weight of such a large nation on your shoulders. He's going to have an awful lot of support at home. Let's hope that he can bring the car home in one piece. And let's see if he can bring home a point or two, because that Alfa Romeo looks tasty.
Used to be based in Sheffield. He's moved to London. But if you're looking for someone a bit left field to support, then maybe Zhou is the one for you. He is just in front of Yuki Tsunoda. And then Nico Hülkenberg, Jack, has made a return.
Yes, a very experienced driver, Nico Hülkenberg. Sebastian Vettel, the Aston Martin driver, tested positive for COVID, so Hülkenberg parachuted in last minute, out-qualified his teammate Lance Stroll by a couple of tenths of a second. Not expecting a great season for Aston Martin. 17th and 19th on the grid, not a great way to start, but Hülkenberg did well.
Ricciardo, P18, and Sam, the McLaren just doesn't look right.
No, it's been tough so far with this new era of Formula One for McLaren. Daniel Ricciardo had COVID, so couldn't complete or do any laps at the test here last week in Bahrain. Lando Norris took up all the driving duties, so of course that would put him on the back foot. But having said that, they had other issues, big brake issues. They're yet to complete a race distance. Speaking to Andreas Seidel earlier today. This race is all about trying to finish it, trying to get through the 57 laps, go away from here, learn, and then big improvement time.
Fingers crossed for them then. Lance Stroll in 19th, and then Nicholas Latifi rounds up the bunch in P20 for Williams. New race director as well, Jack. Will that change things? And can you tell us a little bit about him?
Niels Wittig is the man who's the race director for this race, and we think the next race as well. He and a man called Eduardo Freitas are going to be the two that alternate after the removal of Michael Massey after the last Grand Prix of the season. I couldn't think of an appropriate adjective. And,
you could have gone with so many. There were so many to choose from.
Exactly, but I have to mind my language because we're on air. But so Niels Wittig is the race director for this weekend, and there's in general a bit more of a importance placed on the teams. They have a bit more responsibility, the teams and drivers, to sort of self-police in a way. So we're expecting to hear a little bit less of the race director saying, you give that place back, you don't give that place back. We'll get more into that over the course of the race. But yeah, Niels Wittig is the man in control for this Grand Prix. And wasn't it nice hearing from Günther Steiner? I was just thinking as he was talking, he's such a wonderful guy, and we've all seen him on the telly, on the Drive to Survive series, where he's a superstar. And we must have never spoken to him last year, because why would we, to be honest? The cars were 19th and 20th every single race. So
too high risk as well.
Well, yeah, that's very true. But he's such a joy. So I can't wait to hear from him more over the course of the year.
Yeah, we'll be eagerly watching what happens to Haas. We'll also be watching tyres. They're very different this year. A lot more like your standard road tyre, 18 inches, a bit more low profile with these big kind of flat fronts put onto them with little covers. They do look different, but how will they react? How will they act around 57 laps of this Bahrain International Circuit? Jack, strategy-wise, what do we think will happen?
Well, we don't know yet, because we don't know what tyres these cars are starting on. They changed the qualifying rules so that the tyre you start on or you use in Q2 in qualifying doesn't have to be your race start tyre. So as a result, we don't know yet. I'm literally looking out the window, waiting for them to take the tyre warmers off, and then we will know what tyres they're on. So strategy-wise, expecting two-stopper, but entirely dependent on what is revealed imminently.
Yeah, we're expecting people to not want to use the hardest tyre first off. That's what our little spies tell us when we were speaking to some of the engineers and mechanics before this. But as you say, who knows what this is going to bring? Some of the race teams have got their act together a bit more than others. Some have done a full 57 simulated lap track run here in Bahrain when they were testing, but it could all be so different, couldn't it, when it actually gets to racing. Sam, ahead of a new season, drivers sitting there, they've done testing, they've pounded round, they've sat in a simulator for a while, gained all this info, but what does it feel like with all these lights shining down, selfies trying to be taken from loads of people, flags fluttering? It's such a cool moment for us.
It's a cool moment for the driver as well. I feel like whenever I go into a new season, you feel like a little bit of pressure is off, because it's round one. There's still a long way to go. And every race, that pressure kind of builds up. If you're doing well, you've got to keep that momentum up. If you're not doing well, pressure's on to do well. So I think that this one is one where it's not a free pass, but it's the start of the year. Let's just see how everybody does.
I've come around now off of the grid to the back of the paddock area, where you've got a few of the mechanics just waiting, maybe just having a quick chat about what they think is going to happen. The world's media gathered around two small televisions, just looking on as well, trying to work out what people are going to do. Will Hamilton be able to jump someone at the start and make up a place? I think there's a really nice sense of excited anticipation here as the palm trees just blow around in a very gentle breeze. Jack, this is so different from the strong wind that we had on Wednesday and Thursday.
Yep, no, this is more like the sort of Bahrain conditions we have come to expect, isn't it? As the grid is now cleared and there's just 5 mechanics around each car just getting ready to pull the tyre warmers off. Now, interestingly, every single driver is starting on the soft tyres except for Lando Norris and Daniel Ricciardo. And when we spoke to Andreas Seidel earlier, Sam, he said, yeah, I'm expecting most to go on mediums, a bit of a split. They obviously fancy the mediums, no one else does.
Yeah, he also said that they didn't know whether the soft would be a good enough tyre for long enough. So he was worried about the life of a soft tyre, which kind of indicated, didn't it, that they might be starting on the mediums, Jack?
Indeed. So the tyre blankets are getting removed. Charles Leclerc in pole position just gets rolled back a few centimetres, about a metre or so, in order to lay down a bit of rubber off the start line as he gets ready to go for his practice start. And when the formation lap begins, that will be your time to sync up at the top of the hour, because the 2022 Formula One season about to begin now with the Bahrain Grand Prix. Cars making their way around on the formation lap. They're all on the soft tyres, bar the two McLarens of Norris and Ricciardo. And it's Charles Leclerc in the Ferrari who's on pole position. Max Verstappen is second, the reigning world champion. Carlos Sainz is third in the other Ferrari. Sergio Perez fourth in the Red Bull. Hamilton down in fifth for Mercedes. Bottas in the Alfa Romeo is sixth. Kevin Magnussen in the Haas is seventh. Alonso, Russell and Gasly complete the top 10. Then you've got Ocon, Schumacher, Norris, Albon and Zhou, the top 15. Tsunoda, Hülkenberg, Ricciardo, Stroll and Latifi, the 20 drivers about to begin Formula One 2022. So Leclerc weaving around, getting some temperature into those tyres. Everybody on the soft, Sam, so there's not really anyone who's going to have a big advantage up at the front, and everybody has almost a lot of options now for the rest of the Grand Prix.
Everybody does have a lot of options, Jack. I think seeing that everybody bar the McLarens are on the softs, that indicates a two-stop strategy for everybody up and down the pit lane, except obviously Lando and Daniel. That'll be interesting. The other thing is the clutches now. This start is going to be absolutely full of drama, I think, because nobody's really done obviously nobody's done a race yet in 2022 with these new cars, full load of fuel. Who's going to get the best grip off the start line? Is the inside line going to count for anything, or is it going to be too dusty? Let's wait and see.
The cars now are coming down towards the final corner. Quite a quick formation lap from Charles Leclerc. He's already coming into the final turn. Zhou Guanyu, the Chinese racer, about to make his first Formula One start, coming around in 15th position. So interested to see what he can do. But Leclerc is now coming out of the final corner into our view and to line up on pole position, Jenny Gow.
Yeah, and worth noting, Leclerc is running new soft tyres. Those around him all running a used tyre, and I think that could be worth something when he's out there in pole position.
He's pulling up to the grid now, comes underneath us in the commentary box as we are at the top of the main grandstand, level with 14th and 15th on the grid. So as I lean over and look to the left, it is Charles Leclerc who has pulled into pole position spot. Every session of this Formula One season will be live on the BBC Sport website and across 5 Live and Sports Extra. And who is going to take the 2022 world title? Can Max Verstappen claim another and defend his? Will we see a first Ferrari world title since 2007? Can Mercedes begin to recover? The final cars are coming into position now. Leclerc's been waiting for... race begins right now, and it's Max Verstappen who's got the best start. He's second on the grid, and he's going to try and pull alongside Charles Leclerc coming down towards turn 1, but he can't do it. Leclerc comes across, covers the inside. Perez is on the attack as well. Carlos Sainz goes to the outside. Hamilton is trying to get past Perez. They're going to be side by side into the left-hander of turn 3, and Hamilton makes the move. Hamilton gets up from 5th to 4th. Kevin Magnussen is looking racy as well, but Charles Leclerc holds the lead in the Ferrari. Second is Max Verstappen. Third is Carlos Sainz. Magnussen did get ahead of Perez and almost got ahead of Lewis Hamilton as well. Everybody is safely through the first 4 corners. Charles Leclerc holds the lead. Reigning champion Verstappen is second. Hamilton makes up a place from 5th to 4th, and we've got full race commentary on Sports Extra. So everybody safely through the first half, Sandberg. Very busy and good start from Hamilton.
Really, really important start for Hamilton, Jack, and also very important that for Ferrari that Hamilton got ahead of Perez, because strategy-wise that could play into Ferrari's hand. If they've got 2 cars out there fighting Verstappen instead of and Red Bull only have 1 car out there, that's going to be key for the race. But great start from Hamilton
and from Magnussen as well to get him into 5th place. So Leclerc leads, Verstappen 2nd, Sainz 3rd, Hamilton 4th, Magnussen 5th, Perez, Russell, Gasly, Alonso and Ocon the top 10. Albon's made up a load of places. He's got up into 11th place. Sonoda is up into 12th position. So Bottas is the big loser. Bottas down in 14th spot, having started alongside Lewis Hamilton in 6th on the grid. When we get the replays, we will have a look back and see what unfolded there. But across the line they come now to complete lap 1, and it is Leclerc, Verstappen, Sainz, Hamilton. The Haas of Magnussen staying with them at the moment in 5th position. There's an attack coming further back as Nico Hülkenberg is having to defend from the attack around the outside by Lando Norris in the McLaren, and he can't quite get it done. Zhou Guanyu dropped back a few places, but he's now got back ahead of Nicolas Latifi, so he's gone from 15th down to 18th, and Daniel Ricciardo is still at the back of the field.
As expected, Jack, the soft tyre worked much better on that opening lap compared to the medium. We've seen Lando and Daniel dropping from their grid slots down 3 or 4 places each, so not a good start from McLaren.
At the moment there's just 1 second between Leclerc and Verstappen, and then it's 7/10 back to Carlos Sainz in 3rd position. The sound you can hear is the Mercedes engine of Lewis Hamilton running in 4th position as he comes up through the gears down the little back straight that takes him to the left-hander of turn 11. And Leclerc and Verstappen trading quick times at the moment. Can Carlos Sainz stay with them? Hamilton is close to the back too, and this is where we're going to see in the early stages of this Grand Prix, well, it's twofold. How much they want to push, how much they want to lean on the tyres, and what pace they actually have, and whether Hamilton can stay with these front runners.
It already looks to me as if Leclerc and Verstappen are just going to sneak away from the rest of the pack, leaving Sainz, Hamilton, Magnussen and Perez to fight potentially for 4th place overall.
Jenny.
Just looking at who lost out in that, really, and it was Bottas, who's gone down to 14th place. He lost 8 positions in that new start for an Alfa Romeo team. Also, Norris lost 4 places for McLaren, but doing well. Sonoda +4 in the Alfa Tauri, Albon +3 places in the Williams, and Stroll moves up 3 places. I also think George Russell did a pretty good start, up to 7th. So that train from 1 to 7 is looking pretty feisty at the minute.
Kevin Magnussen's had a big lock up at turn 1, and he's now under big pressure from Sergio Perez. They're going to go side by side through 5 and 6, and Perez has got the inside line, and he's now up into 5th position. We didn't see why Magnussen had that lock up, whether he was on the attack or the defence, but he has now dropped down to 6th, and there's a bit of breathing room behind Hamilton now, a couple of seconds the gap back. It looked on the start as though Verstappen had got the better initial getaway, but in the next phase Leclerc managed to hold it quite well. Magnussen came from nowhere to get up and challenge with Perez and Hamilton.
I was just looking at Bottas's start to see where he lost so many places. He had an awful getaway, absolutely horrid. Immediately it looked like a load of wheel spin and got absolutely trounced by 7 or 8 cars.
Yeah, but he was already coming out of turn 1 and 2. He was down to sort of 9th and 10th. He was with the Alpines, so he lost then another 4 places, I think, up at turn 4. Verstappen sent it ambitiously to the outside into turn 1, but wasn't able to make anything of it. They're about to come across the line again to complete lap 3, and it is Leclerc leading by 1.2 seconds ahead of Verstappen. Hamilton arguably got one of the better starts in the field.
Yeah, clean. It wasn't anything special, but it was clean. He placed his car on the outside, which gave him room for the inside into turn 2, and that's what got him 4th place at the start, Jack.
Esteban Ocon had a collision with Mick Schumacher. So Schumacher got a good start, got clipped by Esteban Ocon at the right-hander of turn 7 and was sent spinning around, did a full 360 and managed to keep on going. Only lost a couple of places, Mick Schumacher. But in the lead of the race is Charles Leclerc. Second is Max Verstappen. 1.2 seconds between the two of them. And then it is 2 seconds back to Sainz, and Hamilton is within a second of Sainz here. The DRS is enabled, so Hamilton may well get DRS on this lap.
Yeah, engine braking is doing funny things mid-corner.
Understood.
Verstappen saying the engine braking is doing funny things mid-corner.
Yeah, not really sure what to make of that, Jack. Not really sure what he's feeling, what he's sensing. But as expected, as we spoke about this morning over breakfast, Lewis Hamilton doing Lewis Hamilton things, dragging that car up towards the podium. We did say that they weren't going to be in the fight, but guess what? The 7-time world champion hanging in there, trying to force the issue with Carlos Sainz.
He's going to have a big chance here. They're about to come across the line to start lap 5 of 57. They turn through the final right-hander at 14, out over the start-finish straight. Is Hamilton close enough to get DRS? Yes, he is. So Hamilton right in the slipstream of Carlos Sainz as they come down towards the first corner. He's got DRS too, but he's a little too far back at the moment. The talk is, and Russell is on the attack, trying to get Kevin Magnussen into turn 1. Shows a nose to the inside. Magnussen goes in way too hot, and he goes basically straight on, and Russell now makes progress up into 6th place. So started 9th, up into 6th position. Hamilton looking racy on the back of Sainz though. Tsunoda's just got past Albon for 11th, but Sainz has still got a bit of a toe from the cars in front. Plus, that it seems like the Ferrari engine this year is pretty tasty.
So we've seen 5 racing laps now of this new 2022 era Formula One car, Jack. To me, what do you think? The racing, is it any closer? Are we seeing more overtaking? Are we seeing people being able to follow nose to tail? I'm not sure just yet. I know it's early in the race, but it seems very spread out already.
Yeah, it depends. It'll depend on whether Hamilton can sort of stay this close to Sainz and make the move. That'll be a good sort of litmus test, I think. Russell, with his look up the inside, sent Magnussen way on. Still not sure why Magnussen went so far wide a few moments ago. But Leclerc leads 1.4 seconds ahead of Verstappen. 2.5 seconds then back to Sainz and Hamilton. Jenny.
Yeah, just looking at their tyres and what they're doing out there. And again, this question of these cars were designed so that they could race, so they could follow more closely. Lewis Hamilton has complained to me, at me, for years when I've interviewed him that he can't follow the car in front of him, can't get past. He still seems a little way off Sainz at the moment, Jack.
Down towards turn 1, Sainz had to think about a defence into the first corner. Hamilton very close, might even be able to get a run up into turn 4, coming through the right-hander of 3 now, and up towards the just slightly tighter than 90-degree right turn at 4, but he's not going to be close enough to make the move there, Hamilton, despite being right up behind the Ferrari. A 5-second time penalty for Esteban Ocon for causing a collision, which seems moderately fair enough for that tap with Schumacher.
I would say so. Drivers are going to have to look out for contact in these new cars for the first few races. The front wings are larger than what they used to. I think only Lewis and Fernando can probably remember 2009 racing in Formula One, that the wings were this wide, this big, this cumbersome. The others haven't raced with a car with a front wing that protrudes that far, and it's a lot easier to have a little ding, have a little scrape with the front wing now.
Zhou Guanyu's making some nice progress here. He's got back up. He dropped down to 19th place, got back up ahead of Nicholas Latifi. He's got past Norris, Stroll, Hülkenberg, and now he is going to try and make the move on Mick Schumacher for 14th place. Not quite close enough as they come into turn 11 that time, but Zhou's putting in a few moves in these early stages. Leclerc still leading. His gap now to Verstappen has gone up to 1.8 seconds. Hamilton again is close behind Sainz this time as they come down the start-finish straight to start lap 7 of 57. DRS open again. Sainz has a little look to his right to just check the mirror, but Hamilton isn't close enough yet to make the move. Leclerc leads, Verstappen second, Sainz third, Hamilton fourth, Perez fifth, Russell, Magnussen, Gasly, Alonso and Ocon the top 10. Then it's Tsunoda, Albon, Bottas, Schumacher, Zhou the top 15, Hülkenberg, Stroll, Ricciardo, Latifi the top 20. And as I say that, Zhou gets ahead of Mick Schumacher. So Guan Yu Zhou to the inside at turn 1, Zhou Guan Yu, sorry, to the inside at turn 1, and he's up into 14th place.
Those two have raced each other in Formula 2, obviously, for a couple of years. Both very competitive young drivers. Good to see Zhou out there. Mick, I'm not sure that the Haas seems to be struggling this phase of the race. We've seen Kevin Magnussen go long a couple of times in turn 1. They clearly have great qualifying pace, Jack, but when the car is heavy on these soft tyres, they seem to be lacking something at the moment. I'd say the two teams that are having a fairly horrible start to the race are McLaren and Aston Martin.
Yeah, they are dropping pretty rapidly off the back of the field. They started on the mediums. Everybody else, Jenny, started on the softs. Mick Schumacher locks up coming into turn 10. Not quite close enough behind is Nico Hülkenberg to take advantage. Bottas is on the back of Albon now for 12th position. But as I say, it was only the two McLarens, Jenny, that started on the medium tyre.
Yeah, and we're up to lap 7 of this race at the moment. It's 57 laps in total. We're looking out around lap 14 for the drivers to start coming in and changing their tyres. If they're going to go into a hard tyre or a medium tyre is yet to be decided. A lot of people thinking that maybe the medium was the way to go. The hard tyre, don't go too near it in this race, but let's see what happens. Let's see the feedback the first time these cars are being raced with these tyres. It'll be really fascinating to see what the teams do. And by the way, pit stops could be a real flashpoint of this race. The cars are heavier, the tyres are more difficult to move around, and that could lead to some mistakes.
Esteban Ocon has just got ahead of his Alpine teammate Fernando Alonso. Alex Albon has just been, well, he's defending hard from Valtteri Bottas in the Alfa Romeo, and Bottas is trying to get the switch back as they come up towards turn 4. Albon moves to cover the inside in the all-blue Williams. Bottas to the outside and never looked like trying to make a move. Hulkenberg is looking racy on the back of Schumacher. The two Germans squabbling over a 15th position, but Zhou is now caught right up to the back of Valtteri Bottas. And when you qualify 15th, your teammate qualifies 6th, and then on lap 8 you suddenly see them right in front of you. That's got to be a pleasing feeling. There's the move from Bottas, but he doesn't pull it off. Went to the inside coming into turn 8, but couldn't make it stick.
I'm so surprised he didn't just run Albon out of road on the outside, because that's kind of what I would have done, Jack. I would have given him no room, put him on the curb. He would have bounced around on the curb and got poor traction. He's actually, this battle is bringing Zhou into the fight. I think that he's probably licking his lips thinking, I could get both of these guys here.
Bottas has got ahead now of Albon. I had the DRS coming down to the left-hander of turn 11, so the Alfa Romeo of Bottas is up into 12th place, Albon down to 13th, and Zhou will be up into that 13th place before too long. What I will say, 15 minutes, so 12 minutes into the Grand Prix, already 2 decisions from the stewards in fairly swift fashion. Both the penalty for Esteban Ocon for that 5-second penalty for the tangle, and also a Stroll and Norris incident has been reviewed and no further investigation necessary. There is a remote room for stewarding inquiries this year to assist with the on-track stuff as well, or at the track stuff as well, and that was all done quite swiftly, so fair enough. Hulkenberg, well, he just got past Mick Schumacher, but then went sailing on down into turn 1, outbraked himself, and I think might have lost out to his teammate Stroll now. So I think Schumacher is still in 15th position. Stroll has got ahead of Hulkenberg because Hulkenberg overdid it trying to get Schumacher into turn 1.
It's all calmed down a little bit at the front of the pack, Jack. We've got, medium-sized gaps appearing from 1st to 4th, but then the closest is Perez to the back of Hamilton. He's within DRS range. So let's see if Perez can attack Hamilton over the next few laps and try and regain the 4th place where he started.
Jenny Gao.
Just so you know, the window that they're looking for will be about 24 seconds. It takes 23 and a half seconds to do a pit stop if they get it right. So that's what we're looking out for the front runners to maybe start to think about whether they can come in and then come back out again in a little bit of clear air. And rules of engagement, Sam and Jack, that's been spoken about coming into this race. The drivers and teams are going to police themselves a little bit more this season. If they take an advantage, go off track maybe to gain an advantage on a competitor, it's up to them them to make their minds up and give the place back, or decide that not going to give the place back, I'll see if I get a penalty or not.
Sergio Perez on the attack, trying to get ahead of Lewis Hamilton down into turn 1. He didn't make it stick there, but Perez has got the run on Hamilton, coming now up into the right-hander of turn 4. It's the battle over 4th place. Perez in the outside on the Red Bull, and Hamilton, nothing he can do to stop the Mexican getting ahead. So Hamilton, after looking pretty racy in the early stages, right up behind Carlos Sainz, slipped out of DRS zone of Sainz and has now been passed by Perez. So the order is back to how it was at the start on the grid. Leclerc, Verstappen, Sainz, Perez, Hamilton, the top 5. Russell now up into 6th place. Magnussen, Gasly, Ocon and Alonso, the top 10.
Looks like those rear tyres on Lewis's car are getting a little bit angry, Jack. Starting to squirm around a little bit. I'm wondering whether he pushed a little bit hard at the beginning, just trying to get that track position, try and force the issue with Sainz. And in doing so now, the rear tyres are really screaming at him. And look, he's missing apexes, cars moving around a lot. I don't think it's going to be long before Lewis is thinking about pitting.
That's Sam Bird, the former Mercedes Formula 1 test driver and now racer in Formula E with Jaguar TCS Racing. And Joe has got ahead of Alex Albon. He's got a little cutback on him coming out of turn 4, which was a nice little move from Zhou Guanyu.
Yeah, lovely little move that. Lovely little move.
Charles Leclerc leads the Grand Prix. 3 seconds now, ahead of Max Verstappen in 2nd place. This is lap 11 of 57. And then there is a 4.5 second gap back to Carlos Sainz. It's 3 seconds back to Perez. Hamilton is still within a second, but not able to make an overtake on that occasion. Russell running in 6th. Magnussen in 7th. 8th is Pierre Gasly. These drivers all fairly spread out at the moment. 9th, Ocon. 10th, Alonso. Yuki Tsunoda running in 11th. Then it's the 2 Alfa Romeos of Bottas and Zhou, who are starting to make a bit of progress. And then there's the queues further back with Albon 14th, Stroll 15th, Schumacher, Hulkenberg, Norris, Latifi and Ricciardo, the 20 runners. McLaren running 18th and 19th at the moment, which is this is horrible, absolutely horrible. They didn't manage to do a race run in pre-season testing, as Jenny was saying earlier on, but this was the team that had maybe the 3rd best car last year.
And this was the team that when they went to Barcelona for the first test, they put it on the ground and it was quickest on day 1, and everybody thought, wow, McLaren have come with an absolute machine of a car. They're going to be right up there, and they've come to Bahrain and just had a horrible time of it. They had these braking issues. Verstappen, right here.
I really have zero traction.
Understood, Max.
Zero traction, says Verstappen. Not dissimilar, I would imagine, to what Lewis Hamilton was going through. You were saying a little earlier on.
Yeah, I think the tyres are falling off for everybody. But as we said, McLaren have had a very tricky time, Jack.
Lap 12 of 57. And it looks as though Mercedes are coming in. They are. Hamilton into the pit lane now. So that is on lap 12. Lewis Hamilton comes into the pits. And Lewis Hamilton is the first of the front runners to pit. I say front runners, he's not really one at the moment because he managed to get up at the start to 4th position. He's now dropped back into 5th behind Sergio Perez, and now he is in the pits. So we'll see where Mercedes end up. Charles Leclerc is still leading the Grand Prix. Verstappen 2nd, Sainz 3rd, Perez 4th. Full commentary on Sports Extra. So Hamilton comes out and he's gone onto the hard tyre. Oh, he's gone deep, so deep into turn 1. He's got no temperature in those tyres as he comes out of the pits. Zhou Guanyu's going to go round the outside of him. Hamilton, it's like he came out onto a sort of wet track.
We saw this in free practice, Jack, over the last couple of days. The hard compound tyre is so difficult to switch on. I think Mercedes tried to counter it. When you looked at the pit stop, that was not a brand new set of hard compound tyres. They'd been scrubbed. They tried to get that shiny surface off the top, but it's still not enough. The tyre is not in a good operating window, and it turns on after 1-2 laps. But the first couple of corners are horrible.
And even, we're just getting a replay of it, Hamilton coming out of the pits and just sailing straight on at the first corner, almost off the circuit. And even without, it didn't look like the neatest pit stop in the world, but he's still coming out into a decent chunk of traffic. Even if he got out ahead of Zhou, he still would have been behind Bottas by a couple of seconds. Then it's only a few seconds up to Tsunoda. So Mercedes having to take the pain coming out in traffic, and they're going to lose time. Jenny Gao?
Yeah, I've just come down to have a little look at the pit lane, and yeah, Hamilton put on the hard tyres. Alonso, team radio.
No grip on this tyre. Okay, copy.
No grip on this tyre, says Hamilton. Do carry on, Jenny.
Yeah, Alonso came in at the same time, lap 12. He switched on to the medium tyre. I'm just thinking about these tyres. They are very different. You can't heat them up as much as you could with last year and the year before's offerings. I just wonder if that makes it harder to switch them on as soon as you go out. Maybe Lewis Hamilton wasn't expecting it to be quite so hard to get grip.
Well, it's certainly going to be an additional factor. You're not allowed in the tyre blankets before the pit stops to get them quite as hot as you were previously. Hamilton has got ahead of Joe now, but Joe's coming back at him. Hamilton's having to defend. There's no real point in Joe having this fight because he's not in a race with Lewis Hamilton, but looks like he's having some fun.
Yeah, but if you're a rookie in Formula One,
yeah.
Get your elbows out against the 7-time world champion. What a great start to his Formula One career. That's, he's just overtaken the 7-time world champion. Okay, he's got him back now, but a bit of fun for him. This track is very difficult for the tyre because we're racing at night, cooler temperatures, which makes it harder for the hard compound to switch on, but at the same time it's very abrasive. So it's kind of you've got to run the hard, but you've got to take some pain at the beginning of the stint.
We are on lap 14 of 57 here in the Bahrain Grand Prix, and Charles Leclerc is leading it by 1 minute. He is 3.7 seconds ahead of Verstappen. They are in their own little race, really, because they're 6.4 seconds clear of Sainz. And actually, Perez is having a good race. That last lap, 0.2 quicker than Sainz. He's cleared Hamilton a little earlier on and is now bringing the gap down to Carlos Sainz in front to just 2.6 seconds at the moment. So those two are fairly together right now.
So seeing how the car reacts on the opening lap coming out of the pits, there's no rush for Charles Leclerc to pit before Verstappen, because all that happened is he might lose track position by doing so. So I think that Leclerc has got the speed just to sit there, wait for Verstappen to pit, and then the next lap he can do it.
Because the undercut is going to be way less powerful.
I don't think that there is an undercut with the performance of the hard tyre coming out of the pits of what we've seen. There is no time for the undercut here.
Jenny.
Alex Albon in the Williams has just come in for a pit stop as well, so we're definitely seeing more and more cars starting to think about changing over. And I'm just thinking about Carlos Sainz in the Ferrari. He said yesterday he's having to concentrate so much on driving this car. It's certainly not natural for him. This regulation change, the shift has made it that he's having to use so much of his brain power. It's slightly different in qualifying, but I still think he's the least comfortable of our top three at the moment. He's just having to work a little harder than Leclerc and Verstappen.
Well, he said yesterday that he felt like he was 6 or 7 tenths off. Into the pits now comes Verstappen from second place. So Max Verstappen comes in. The gap was 3.7 seconds when Verstappen made his way into the pit lane. Soft tyres on at the Red Bull team and another set of softs. So he's going from softs to softs is Max Verstappen. So that's an interesting, aggressive choice, and that is certainly demonstrating a two-stop strategy.
I'm saying Verstappen's obviously going soft, medium, but I'm saying Perez is going to go soft, hard and try and make it to the end.
Sainz has done the same. So Carlos Sainz in the Ferrari came in and has gone onto the soft tyres as well. So second and third have been in the pits, and we'll see whether Sam Bird's theory will turn out to be true. Does Leclerc have to pit now to cover this off? Because presumably the undercut on a soft tyre is going to be stronger than going onto a hard tyre.
Absolutely. Different ball game then. Well, I thought that they might come in and go to the hard, but they haven't. I think Leclerc's got to come in this lap just to cover it to keep the lead.
So Carlos Sainz is out there on circuit now, but Charles Leclerc is coming up through turns 12 and 13 and down to the final couple of corners. Sainz and Verstappen both came out ahead of Hamilton, as you would have expected. Pierre Gasly is going side by side with Fernando Alonso. They're battling over 11th place now. Both have been to the pits, Alonso and Gasly, yes. So both have pitted. We'll see what Leclerc does as he comes around the final corner. Well, Ferrari are out and ready.
That was a really early start. Yeah, copy that, Lewis.
Hamilton saying that was a really early stop. Into the pits now comes race leader Charles Leclerc. off go the soft tyres. On go a new set of soft tyres. It's very neat and tidy, that stop for Ferrari, and he heads back out onto the circuit. So Charles Leclerc should retain the lead. Perez has come in as well then. So Perez in the other Red Bull has come in. 3.1 seconds the pit stop for Leclerc, which is a good effort. Verstappen now is just about to come out of the final corner and down over the start finish straight, and it's going to be pretty close between them. Leclerc has come out in front, but Verstappen's going to have the hotter tyres, and this is going to be his opportunity. He'll have DRS as well coming up to turn 4. Leclerc and Verstappen about to fight for the lead of the Bahrain Grand Prix. Verstappen hasn't got the pace, hasn't got the speed, didn't have the straight line speed to get up and fight with Leclerc, but he'll be hoping that it'll take Leclerc just a lap or so to get used to what's going on the Ferrari's rubber. Close.
Very close, but Charles Leclerc's tyres will now be up to temperature. 39 laps to go. Sergio Perez has gone onto the medium tyre. Can he make a medium last 39 laps?
Well, that's going to be interesting. George Russell has also for Mercedes gone out on the hard tyre. Verstappen is still in DRS range behind Charles Leclerc as they come down towards the left-hander of turn 11. No overtaking opportunity there, but if he can stay this close through the next few corners, then he could have an opportunity down the start-finish straight. And this sequence will kind of be the litmus test for whether the new cars can follow. And Verstappen is staying in there fairly well. Here they come. 1, 2, down towards the final corner. Verstappen's going to have a shot.
Let's see, Jack. I'm not as optimistic as you on this. I think Charles Leclerc's got it under control again.
Here they come into the final corner at turn 14, out onto the start finish straight. Leclerc immediately moves over to the inside to try and break the slipstream of Max Verstappen. There's 0.7 of a second between them. Verstappen sets the fastest lap of the Grand Prix. He's closing in on the Ferrari driver, goes to the inside into turn 1 and moves into the lead. Max Verstappen, the reigning champion, hits the front, but Leclerc is going to get the run coming through turn 2, the right-hand kink of turn 3. He now will attack Verstappen. Verstappen covers the inside, absolutely wheel to wheel. The Ferrari right around the outside of turn 4. That's beautiful from Leclerc. He's back in front. Wonderful stuff. Lap 17 of 57. Leclerc holds Verstappen off for now.
Well, I said Leclerc would be in the lead. I just didn't realise it was going to be like that, Jack. Wow, what amazing racing from both of these world-class drivers. And how powerful is the DRS now with these new cars? I mean, it was 25, 30 kilometres an hour difference coming down this front straight. Absolutely incredible.
But it's not over yet because Verstappen was very close last time. In fact, he's about the same distance behind that he was before. Because of the nature of the circuit here, are you not too fussed if you get overtaken into turn 1 because you have the chance to get back?
You do have the chance, but you've got to place the car carefully on the exit of 1 in order to get that slingshot through 2 and down to 4, which is exactly what Charles Leclerc did with a beautiful late move to get the first position back again.
So late on the brakes, Leclerc made it, got it stopped, but Verstappen is right there again. And if anything, he might be a little closer than he was last time. Out over the start, finish straight once more. Leclerc immediately moves to the inside to try and break the slipstream again. Verstappen is closing in once more, down towards turn 1. The gap closing and closing and closing. Does the Red Bull driver go for it again? He does, he sends it in. So late on the brakes, gets it stopped. But we're going to be in the same scenario now, where Leclerc is going to have the run up into turn 4. So Verstappen back in front, immediately goes to cover the inside, but Leclerc's there already. Leclerc gets his car to the inside. Is he back into first place? Verstappen tries to hang it around the outside, but Leclerc does it again. He still holds on ahead of Verstappen. This feels like a battle for the ages already.
This is Nico Rosberg, Lewis Hamilton 2014 all over again. I love the fact that we've got Grand Prix racing back. And okay, Mercedes aren't at the front, Jack, but we've got an amazing battle on our hand. Ferrari are back.
They certainly are, aren't they? Charles Leclerc leading the way, Verstappen right behind him. They've swapped the lead 4 times in the last 2 laps, Jenny.
Yeah, they have. What a dynamic duo these two are proving to be. They're the same age, separated by just 2 weeks of birth. They've grown up in the same lifestyle, a total karting lifestyle of being 100% committed to motorsport. And here they are battling in the first round of the 2022 championship, and it is spectacular.
It looks as though Verstappen might have just dropped a little far back from Leclerc this time. The gap is 9/10 of a second as they come down towards the final corner. It's going to be pretty close as to whether Verstappen is going to get the DRS this time around. He comes out now through the final corner and over the start-finish straight. They're about to start lap 19 of 57. There's less than a second between them, so he does get the DRS, Verstappen. He'll be too far back this time, but he might have the chance coming into 4. He sends it. He sends it. Big lockup. The two race leaders are fighting so hard. Leclerc and Verstappen have swapped the lead 5 times in the last 2 laps. Verstappen just sent it into turn 1, had a big lockup on the right front. So it is Charles Leclerc who holds the lead for Ferrari. Hamilton still running down in 5th place. Full commentary on Sports Extra. That was a lunge from Verstappen into 1.
It was a serious lunge, but it was a bit desperate, to be honest, Jack. Look, he's had that big lockup now, and that's on the soft compound tyre. This tyre he needed to take a little bit further. Is that going to hurt his progress for the rest of the race now?
I feel a little surprised that Verstappen has been so keen to get the job done at turn 1, considering that on both occasions Leclerc just went back past him up into turn 4. It felt like he could not have sent the lunge and had an opportunity into 4 to make it a bit different.
Yeah, I think so as well. Actually, looking at that lockup, I think he'll be okay. I mean, it looked more dramatic than what it was, but what he's done is I think if he was a little more race smart, and I'm saying that about a Formula 1 world champion, how ridiculous does that sound? I would have done the same. I would have waited, got close out of 1, and then tried to move into 4, because then you can't attack into 6, 7.
That's Sam Bird, the former Mercedes F1 reserve driver and now Jaguar Formula E driver, alongside me, Jack Nicholls and Jenny Gow, with you here in Bahrain. And Verstappen has now dropped outside of that 1 second window. He did not got getting the DRS now on Charles Leclerc, so those sort of 3 laps were his opportunity. Maybe he can use the pace in that Red Bull to try and gain it back and get back within DRS, but for the immediate moment anyway, the battle for the lead has calmed down a little, but we needed that, I think.
Absolutely.
Couldn't have coped with another 50 laps of that.
That was really, really fun. As we go on board with Zhou Guan Yu, and he's doing a move on Lando Norris, nice and easy, going down the front straight. Nice move. If you're Charles Leclerc now, and you've just had that intense battle, now it's head down time. Now reel off the laps, just try and pull that gap, keep Max Verstappen out of DRS range, because you've seen how powerful that is.
Now every driver apart from the McLaren of Lando Norris has made a pit stop, so this is the order. Charles Leclerc leading, Verstappen second, 1.2 seconds between them. Well, it's now up to 1.7 seconds. Then Carlos Sainz is 8 seconds further back, despite all that fighting. Sainz is still 8 seconds back. Perez 3.5 seconds back from Carlos Sainz, but he's on the medium tyre now, Sergio Perez. Leclerc, Verstappen and Sainz all on the softs. Perez is on the mediums.
Gap to Verstappen behind 1.5. Really good job before. Keep it like this.
They're being told he did a really good job before. Hamilton is 5th. He's 7 seconds back from Perez. Russell is 7 seconds back from Hamilton in 6th. But those Mercedes are on the hard tyre, so we'll see whether they come into sort of any sort of discussion later on in the race. But Hamilton is 20 seconds off the race lead. Kevin Magnussen is running 7th for Haas. 8th is Pierre Gasly in the AlphaTauri. 9th is Fernando Alonso in the Alpine. 10th is Esteban Ocon in the other Alpine. Then it's Tsunoda, Bottas, Zhou, Schumacher and Norris, the top 15. Albon, Hülkenberg, Latifi, Stroll and Ricciardo, the 20 drivers. Bottas has now caught Yuki Tsunoda in the fight over 11th position, so almost getting back up into the points, Valtteri Bottas, after a very poor start. Let's go down to Jenny Gow.
Yeah, just having a look at those tyres, we saw Verstappen lock up the front right. It did do a little bit of damage to it, but it doesn't seem to be vibrating too much, but from looking at his on-board at the moment. But I have to say, it won't have done him any favours. They're going to want to extend this as much as they can. Those tyres were healthy for about 15, 16, 17 laps at most, for some of them on the soft, so they're going to have to come in again and pit. Could this go to an even more bizarre strategy? I don't know. We'll have to wait and see. Remember, this is the first time these tyres have been race run.
Yeah, absolutely. We're on lap 21 of 57, so we're about 1/3 race distance, a little over, but not quite halfway through the Grand Prix. And it is Leclerc who's now 2 seconds clear of Max Verstappen. So that advantage for Leclerc is starting to build. I think Verstappen has been told on the radio, try to bring the brakes down, Max, just focus on that. So a little bit of hot brakes for Verstappen. This is a heavy braking circuit anyway, let alone when you're trying to lunge one back from 10 car lengths.
Exactly. Yeah, it is a very heavy duty circuit on the brakes. You've got turn 1, you've got turn 4, turn 8, turn 10 is a tricky one for the brakes, and then turn 14. So a lot of heavy duty braking. I think probably only Singapore I can probably remember thinking that would be harder on the brakes than this one, and Monza.
Lap 22 of 57. Leclerc leading, 2.4 seconds now ahead of Verstappen. 10 seconds back to Carlos Sainz in third in the Ferrari. Here comes Valtteri Bottas trying to get past Yuki Tsunoda in that aforementioned battle over 11th place. Bottas not really following the slipstream of Tsunoda as they come down into turn 1 through the right-hander, where we saw a little bit of a snatch of the front right, I think, there from Bottas. Drops back a little as a result through the apex of the hairpin right-hand first corner, and he's not going to be close enough this time coming up into turn 4 to make a move. Magnussen's still doing a good job in the Haas, running in 7th place fairly comfortably. Now, he went on to the softs. Everybody else in the sort of midfield, from Gasly in 8th all the way down to Albon in 16th, went onto the medium tyre at the pit stop, went soft tyre to medium tyre. So it's only the 3 front runners, Leclerc, Verstappen and Sainz, Magnussen in 7th, and some of the back markers of Stroll, Latifi, Ricciardo and Hülkenberg that have gone soft to soft. Of course, Ricciardo didn't do soft to soft, he went medium to soft, but there's quite a split between the front 3 and everyone else, and Mercedes are the only team doing their tyre strategy at the moment, which was a soft onto a hard.
I think Mercedes are trying the one stop. I'm now unsure on Sergio Perez. I have to say Sainz and Perez are slowly creeping towards Verstappen. Verstappen's doing low 1 minute 38. Sainz and Perez are doing high 1 minute 37. So 2-3 tenths a lap. If they can keep this up for the next 8-10 laps, they could be close when it's time to pit again. And then it could be a really interesting fight for the top 4 places.
At 23 of 57. Those top 4 positions at the moment: Leclerc, Verstappen, Sainz and Perez. Jenny Gow.
Yeah, I'm just looking at the McLarens at the moment. That Papaya car has struggled with its brakes so far in testing, and it looks like, as Sam was saying, this is a very aggressive braking circuit. It's still struggling, but it's struggling with even more than that. They're at the back of the pack, really. Norris has yet to pit. He's currently P16. Ricciardo has pitted. He's 19th. This isn't where McLaren would have hoped they'd have started the season. They've got so much work to do on this. Remember, Ricciardo coming into this race having suffered from a bout of COVID, so he actually didn't take part in the test here at Bahrain, and we don't know how his fitness will hold out for the duration of 57 laps.
So far, reliability has been fairly strong, though, hasn't it, Jenny? Because there were a lot of concerns about that coming into this Grand Prix. Lewis Hamilton's just had a pretty big lockup on the hard tyres coming down into 8.
Yeah, his last lap time was horrible, Jack. Absolutely horrible. 39.4 compared to his teammate 38.5. So that was the lockup going down into turn 8. It's really it's the front 4 that can do 37s and low 38s. Everybody else you're looking at low 39s or even in the 40s. So it is a 4-horse race.
Think about the 3 stops.
Carlos Sainz saying think about the 3 stops. Well, you have to use 2 compounds of tyre in the Grand Prix. So that's how we know that Leclerc, Verstappen and Sainz will stop again, because they've only used the soft at the start and then moved on to the soft. So they have to use the medium or the hards. But a 3-stop's an interesting call from
we hadn't thought of 3-stop. We thought it was a 1-stop or a 2-stop. Probably a 2-stop for most people is what we thought. But a 3-stop, that's interesting.
Jenny?
Yeah, we need to look at Lando Norris in the McLaren, because he's the only one who hasn't pitted yet. So he has done 24 laps on the medium tyre so far. Now, as you said, the cars out front have gone soft to a soft apart from Perez, so they're going to want to try and get at least 25 laps, maybe push it to 30 from the medium tyre, because let's face it, the cars will be lighter towards the end of the race. They've got as much fuel in it, so you've got to do the maths and work out what they can do in the middle section. And I think Sainz is quite sensible for suggesting maybe to look at the 3-stop option, because they'll be on much fresher rubber. Norris is going to try the 1-stop for sure. So let's see.
Yeah, let's see indeed. Sainz, the only thing for Sainz is that Perez is right there behind him in 4th place on the medium tyre. So I suppose what... Yeah, it just seems that when you're in a podium position, unless they're thinking they can try and get... You have to work out in these scenarios, don't you, or try and figure out whether the driver is looking forwards or backwards. If Sainz is being, let's do 3-stop to be racy because I can catch up Verstappen, or let's do a 3-stop so I can hold on to my position.
Well, I don't see how a 3-stop would work for him. All he would do is move a long way behind Perez by doing it, and then he'd have to make up 20-odd seconds on Perez, who currently is on a tyre that will last longer than him anyway currently, so he'll be able to pit after Sainz does for the next stop. So when is this 3-stop going to happen? I think that's... maybe he's thinking outside the box. They've probably spoken about it in a briefing, but right now I can't see how a 3-stop would work and how he would still finish 3rd.
Bottas might have a chance here to overtake Yuki Tsunoda. He's got the slipstream, goes to the outside and is nowhere near getting through. Although he's got the cut back into 4. He's got the cut back into 4, Valtteri Bottas, and then they were going side by side into turn 5, and Tsunoda has the place. So Bottas not able to get up into 11th place just yet, but he's had a lot of opportunities on Yuki Tsunoda, not quite been able to get through. Norris is the last driver to have made a pit stop now. He's coming on those mediums after 26 laps. The order is Leclerc, Verstappen, Sainz, Perez, Hamilton the top 5, Russell, Magnussen, Gasly, Alonso, Ocon the top 10, Tsunoda, Bottas, Zhou, Schumacher and Albon the top 15, Stroll, Norris, Latifi, Ricciardo, Hülkenberg the 20 runners. In fact, I'll give you that last 5 again, that was incorrect. Stroll, Latifi, Ricciardo, Hülkenberg and Norris the 20 runners, because Norris has pitted, so he is now at the back of the pack. 3.8 seconds now, Charles Leclerc's advantage over Max Verstappen. 0.3 of a second slower on that last lap. Sainz went a little quicker. Perez did about the same on a medium tyre compared to Verstappen's soft, so perhaps Verstappen is in a tyre conservation mode at this current point.
Well, maybe that front lockup has affected him. Maybe he's had to... When you have a front lockup like that, Jack, the first thing you normally have to do in order to prevent it happening again, as we see Fernando Alonso pitting from 12th place, is you have to go rearwards on the brake bias. That's the first thing that you do, maybe 1%, something like that. And then that affects the deg on the rear of the car, and it makes the rear of the car move around more, and you then overheat the rears. So it's not an ideal thing to do.
Lewis Hamilton in 5th place, Russell in 6th. Russell's doing similar lap times at the moment to Lewis Hamilton, and in fact I think that gap has come down. I think it was sort of 6 or 7 seconds after the pit stops. It's now down to 5. Russell did pit later, so
and Lewis had that massive lockup, didn't he?
Correct.
So there's that second.
Yeah, that's very true. But the pace for Russell looks pretty solid at the moment, even though he's a little far away from Lewis Hamilton, but he's not under any pressure from Kevin Magnussen behind, and there's 6 seconds back to Pierre Gasly in 8th, then 9th and 10th for Ocon and Alonso. Tsunoda still holding on to that 11th place with Bottas behind, and in fact Zhou was half a second quicker on that last lap than Valtteri Bottas. Fernando Alonso is trying to get ahead of Alex Albon for 14th place. Now that Alonso has made his second pit stop, and he's the first driver, Jenny, to make a second pit stop.
Yeah, absolutely. He came in on lap 26 for the hard tyres, so he managed 14 laps on the medium tyre, started on the soft, but it didn't look like he was enjoying being on that medium tyre at all. So maybe a change of strategy to try and give him a bit more comfort in that car.
And he is now ahead of Albon and up into 14th position, and about 8 seconds back from Mick Schumacher in front. So that's going to be the next target for Fernando Alonso, although having said that, he has made his second stop, so Schumacher might shuffle out at the next round of pit stops whenever that is going to be. 4 seconds now, the gap at the front. Leclerc takes another 10th out of Max Verstappen as they come down towards the final corner once more. Still fastest lap of the Grand Prix is in the hands of Sergio Perez, but that'll go after the next round of pit stops, I would have thought. Fernando Alonso's move on Alex Albon was fairly straightforward, but Albon having a solid enough race. He's about 9-10 seconds up the road from his teammate Nicholas Latifi, who started last and has climbed up into 17th.
Yeah, but moving along nicely, nothing special. As we go on board with Max Verstappen, having a look. Now we go.
Dead again. The tires.
Verstappen saying they're almost dead again, the tyres.
Yeah, you know, that he is on the soft tyre and he's done roughly the same mileage on them, so that's kind of what you'd expect. Biggest gainers, biggest losers, Jack? You'd say that Valtteri Bottas because of the start, but the biggest gainer of the race so far is Yuki Tsunoda, gaining 6 places.
Yeah, very impressive stuff from Tsunoda. Hamilton's just pitted again. So lap 28 of 57, Hamilton has just pitted again from the hard tyres. So he's done a relatively tiny stint on those hards, maybe 15, 16, maybe a little more, 17 or 18 laps. And he's now gone out on the mediums. And surely if the... Well, let's hear some radio.
And Lewis, important that we don't push this tyre too hard on the outlap.
Okay, don't push this tyre too hard on the outlap, because sometimes these Pirellis, if you go too hard on the opening lap, you run into trouble later.
So Mercedes and Lewis Hamilton are going to try and make this tyre to the end, but because otherwise there was no point. Yeah, but there was no point putting the hards on in the last stint and then not making it to the end now.
Jenny?
Yeah, it was a bit of a sticky start for Hamilton as well. 3.9 seconds. It was the front left that was slow to release. They have put on a new set of those medium tyres, and as you said, Jack, your maths was pretty good. 16 laps he managed on the hard tyre, which is the same as people were managing on the soft tyre. So to me, that seems like it isn't quite going to the plan they thought it would be when they got in the car.
Yeah, there's no doubt that's not a planned strategy, let's say. They're not Mercedes aren't sitting down before the race and saying, right, we'll do 12 laps on the softs, 15 laps on the mediums, and then 15 laps on the hards, and then 30 on the mediums.
No, and look, in principle, obviously the soft tyre lasts the least amount of time. Medium tyre will last the medium, and the hard tyre should last the longest, but it doesn't always work like that. If you're overstressing the hard tyre and it's just skating across the ground, you will either grain it or you'll just take more and more surface off that tyre and work it to a point where it's got no rubber left. And that might have happened with Lewis's tyres. He did look like he was really unhappy on the hards, and therefore Bono and Mercedes have called him in and put him on the mediums.
Lap 29 of 57, that is Sam Bird, the Jaguar Racing Formula E driver, alongside me, Jack Nicholls, here in the Bahrain commentary box, overlooking the pit lane directly opposite the Ferrari garage, who are all sitting down at the moment. No concerns for them, because Charles Leclerc is leading the Grand Prix. He is 3.6 seconds ahead of Max Verstappen. So Verstappen was actually 0.3 quicker on that last lap than Charles Leclerc. Carlos Sainz is running in third. Fourth is Sergio Perez. Fifth is George Russell. Sixth is Kevin Magnussen. Seventh is Pierre Gasly. Lewis Hamilton has made a second pit stop and come out in 8th place. Ocon is 9th. 10th is now Yuki Tsunoda. Bottas is 11th. Joe Schumacher. Alonso the top 14. Alonso has made a second stop. And then it's Stroll, Albon, Ricciardo, Latifi, Hulkenberg, Norris. The 20 drivers still running. And down in the pit lane is Jenny Gao.
Thanks, Jack. Yeah, I've just had a conversation with Red Bull, and Max Verstappen's had to back off of Charles Leclerc in front of him in the Ferrari. The brake temperatures was just getting too high by following. So he's just had to leave a little bit of a gap between him and Charles Leclerc, and I'm sure we'll see another challenge after the pit stop phase.
And medium compound is stronger than expected.
So Leclerc being told the medium compound of tyre is stronger than expected. So to me, that is insinuating we're going to put you on the mediums next time, and then you'll be done.
We're within range of, well, we're over half race distance now, Jack. We've got, 27 laps remaining. The medium can do that. The medium can get you home from here. So I think what they're telling him is, look, maybe the plan was to go to the hard, but actually we're going to go to the medium. That looks like the more optimum tyre to go to now.
That's the tyre, of course, that Fernando Alonso came off, the medium tyre, to go onto the hard. Another pit stop, Tsunoda in there going onto a soft tyre. And just a reminder, it was Norris in the McLaren who managed to get 26 laps out of his medium tyre. That was at the top of the race, so the car would have been heavier. So as you say, Sam, I think to get on to a medium now, go to the end of the race, fine. I'm not sure Tsunoda can get to the end of the race on a soft, though.
No, that's very true. Second stop for Tsunoda. And meanwhile, Fernando Alonso is fighting with Mick Schumacher over 13th position. Alonso, who has made a second stop, and actually that gap was, I remember saying that gap was 8 seconds. Verstappen in, Verstappen out. He's put a set of medium tyres on Max Verstappen, comes in from second place. Now, it was about 3.7 seconds, I think, the gap, 3.5, 4, maybe 4. And that is very similar to the gap last time when he tried to undercut Charles Leclerc. I think it was 3.6 that time around.
But interestingly, last time they were both going onto the soft tyre, so he could push immediately out the pits. Now, this first lap, Lewis Hamilton was told 2 laps ago, you've got to take it easy on this first lap if you want to make it to the end. I don't think Max is going to be able to push that hard on this opening lap. And just as we expect, Jack, Charles Leclerc box at the end of this lap.
Yeah, the Ferrari team will come out into the pit lane and get ready to make the tyre change for Charles Leclerc. And if it's we'll see whether it's a neat and tidy pit stop for Leclerc. He's just coming around into turn 13 now. Verstappen is coming through the middle sector. He's having a reasonable pace in the middle sector, not setting the timing screens alight at the moment. Here comes Leclerc now. He's got a little bit of traffic with Daniel Ricciardo up in front of him as they come into the right-hander of turn 14. And then now the Ferrari mechanics come running out into the pit lane with a new set of medium tyres. Charles Leclerc comes into the pit lane now. And is this going to be a neat and tidy stop for the Ferrari squad? Leclerc from the lead, up on the jacks, off go the soft tyres, on go the medium tyres. He's down again, and it's very neat and tidy for Charles Leclerc, as it was first time around. 2.5 seconds, that's half a second quicker than his first pit stop, and this should keep Leclerc in front of Verstappen. But Verstappen is coming over the timing line now. It is going to be tight, but Leclerc is just going to hold the advantage. Very entertaining, Steve, and Charles Leclerc has come out ahead of Max Verstappen. He's made his second pit stop. Verstappen made his 1 lap previous, but Verstappen was 4 seconds behind before the pit stops, and now he's just 1 second behind. Alongside me in commentary is the Formula E driver for Jaguar, Sam Bird. Has Verstappen got a shot here at trying to take the fight to Leclerc again?
Yes. However, Red Bull have reported braking issues on his car. They're running too hot.
Okay, this is now 2 times that I take it easy on the outlap, and I could have easily been in front. I'm never ever doing it again.
And that is Verstappen furious on the radio saying, twice now you've told me take it easy on your lap out of the pits. And he's saying, if I didn't take it easy, if I drove as fast as I could, then I'd be in the lead. Has he got a point?
He has got a point, but the last one I think he was pushing. He was pushing on the soft. We saw that he was pushing.
Yeah, fascinating stuff. They're not in the lead of the race at the moment because Sainz and Perez, the Ferrari and the Red Bull, have yet to pit. Leclerc is third, Verstappen is fourth, but those 2 race leaders have still got to make a pit stop. Very busy Grand Prix here on Sports Extra. Interesting stuff. I'm never ever doing that again, says Verstappen. That was some real annoyance there.
Well, this is really interesting now, Jack. Perez is in front of Leclerc. Are Red Bull going to hang him out to dry and make him fight Leclerc for the position, which then brings Max Verstappen back into contention?
Lewis Hamilton, meanwhile, having made that next pit stop, has got to try and get past Kevin Magnussen to get up into 6th place. He's got a very good run on the back of the Haas driver here. As they come down the start-finish straight, he pulls to the right-hand side, opens the DRS, and Hamilton breezes past Magnussen down towards turn 1 and moves up into 6th place. Magnussen still on his fairly old soft tyres. Jenny Gow.
Yeah, just having a look at those pit stops again between Charles Leclerc in the Ferrari and Max Verstappen in the Red Bull, and it was half a second difference. The Ferrari team really got on top of their pit stop, just 2.5 seconds for Leclerc compared to a 3-second stop for Verstappen. So that, with the outlap that he was taking it gently for, probably didn't help him too well. I'm fascinated by Verstappen talking back to his strategist saying, no, you're telling me the wrong stuff. We'll dissect that later, I'm sure. And just worth noting, nobody has failed to finish this. Nobody has had to pull out. We've had no reliability issues yet. So all 20 drivers still there. Exactly the opposite of what I thought would happen.
Here now comes Sergio Perez into the final corner. Leclerc is closing in on him quite quickly, as Sam was alluding to.
You are free to push, Max. Free to push.
Oh, into the pits now comes Perez. So Perez is trying to take the fight to Sainz. They come into the pits right together. So Leclerc in the lead now, Verstappen second, because Sainz and Perez have pitted. How does the pit stop go for Ferrari? It's very, very clean, but he still comes out ahead of Sergio Perez. So no order change there between the two of them. But will Perez now be on the softs and Sainz on the mediums, because Perez went onto the mediums for the middle stint, so Perez could have the tyre advantage. They're coming out of the pit lane now, coming out behind Nicholas Latifi, and it is now the soft tyres for Sergio Perez. Russell makes his second stop. Verstappen has been told he is free to push. We heard that just before the next round of pit stops. So, because it's all very well saying if Verstappen pushed, he would take the lead of the Grand Prix, which is his belief, but it's a long game.
It is a long game. I'm really surprised that Perez pitted then. I'm really surprised, because how does that benefit him in any way? He was on a tyre that could go longer than Carlos Sainz.
Yeah.
And he hasn't been able to help Max Verstappen by backing Charles Leclerc into Max. So what was the gain from Sergio Perez pitting when he did? I thought he could go an extra 4-5 laps.
Could have extended,
and then really work those soft tyres towards the end of the race to try and attack Carlos Sainz when those mediums are going off.
Yeah, Sam Bird, the Formula E driver, alongside me, Jack Nicholls here in Bahrain. Down in the pit lane is Jenny Gao. We're on lap 34 of 57, and it is Charles Leclerc who is leading the way as they come across the line to start lap 35 now, and Max Verstappen is trying to chase him down, but the gap, which was about 1 second when they came out the pits, has now gone up to 1.9 seconds, although on that last lap they were pretty much similar. Jenny?
Yeah, just having a look at the pit stops. These cars are much heavier, and there's kind of a cover on the wheel as well, on the tyre. It's making it quite difficult to do the pit stops. It's a huge variance. You're looking at the difference of about, almost half a second between one that's good and one that's okay, and then another half a second between the ones that are really shocking. So there's a big variant in the pit stops at the moment.
Well, it's taking the teams quite a while, Jenny, to kind of get used to these new pit stops and new tyres.
Yeah, it will do. They've been practicing. Of course, they do loads of pit stop practices. Kevin Magnussen now coming in the Haas. He's going to go onto, I think, a set of the medium tyres. But as I just watch him come in, they lift the car off. These tyres are much, much heavier. The cars are heavier as well. He's gone onto the mediums, so they're taken off the soft. A 3.8 second stop. So that's a full second slower, maybe even a little bit more than that, than last year's pit stops.
And so he is going to come out behind the Alfa Romeos, who have only made one stop.
And we've had track limits at turn 4.
It's Hamilton being warned about exceeding the track limits at turn 4. Magnussen might get done by Gasly here, the Frenchman to the outside, and gets right around the outside at turn 4. Good move from Pierre Gasly, who has made a second pit stop. So that is an overtake for essentially 7th place on the road. It's for 10th right now, but it is for 7th place, that move from Gasly, who's having a strong afternoon, I think, evening.
Absolutely, having another strong afternoon, but he tends to have strong afternoons now, Jack. For the last 2 seasons, I think Gasly has, of the non-front runners, let's say, he's been the next best, consistently.
Magnussen was trying to stay with Gasly, coming down to turn 11, had a huge load of wheel spin coming off the slow left-hander of turn 10, and as a result might be dropping a bit too far back from Gasly, but he is on a fresher set of medium tyres, whereas Gasly is out on a hard set of tyres that he's been on for a few more laps. Sergio Perez set the fastest lap of the Grand Prix on that lap, and it's 2.2 seconds back from Carlos Sainz. He only set the fastest lap by 1/10 of a second though. So I'm with you, Sam, what you were saying earlier. He has got the soft tyre advantage over the mediums in terms of pace, but if you're doing the same distance on them, you lose the durability advantage that the medium has.
Absolutely. We've seen some strange decisions on tyres in this race so far. You know, Lewis on those hards wasn't happy, then goes to the medium. Sainz and Perez going on the softs at the same point as Sainz puts the mediums on. Some really bizarre things happening in terms of tyre choice. I think that's because we don't know with these new tyres and with these new cars what to expect, and even the teams are getting caught out.
Well, even we heard Ferrari earlier on when on the team radio they said to Charles Leclerc the medium is looking better than expected, and that's what Leclerc is on now, 2.5 seconds up the road from Max Verstappen. Kevin Magnussen has got back ahead now of Pierre Gasly. They had a nice little battle, had a bit of a lock-up, Magnussen, into turn 1, but he has now got back ahead of Gasly and into a net 7th position, basically putting the same move on Gasly that Gasly pulled on him up into turn 4.
Yeah, Gasly had a huge swapper coming out of turn 1 where he lit up the rear tyres, which enabled Magnussen to place his car well through to get the run into 4 and make the move stick.
That 37 of 57, 21 laps remaining in the Bahrain Grand Prix. Leclerc's lead is 2.5 seconds over Max Verstappen in second place. Perez on that last lap, again, took 1/10 of a second out of Carlos Sainz. That's all. They are 15 seconds back from the lead battlers. Valtteri Bottas has come into the pits. Kevin Magnussen is getting ahead of Zhou Guanyu. So that is now 7th place for Magnussen. 8th place will be Gasly soon when Zhou comes into the pits. Bottas is going to come out behind Tsunoda here. So Tsunoda pitted earlier than Bottas. In fact, I think Tsunoda's going to come out miles ahead of Bottas. They were battling on track for genuine track position before the second round of stops, but the AlphaTauri's gained a huge amount of time in that pit stop phase. He's coming up into turn 4, whereas Bottas is only just exiting turn 2. So good stuff for Yuki Tsunoda.
We thought that the AlphaTauris couldn't work in the cold, but they're working really well in the race today. I'm a little bit shocked at just how far up the road Ferrari and Red Bull are on everybody else. It's not a couple of tenths, it's not half a second, it's over a second to everybody else, including the Mercedes.
That's gradually crashing to me.
So Sainz saying that guy nearly crashed into me. That guy was Alex Albon coming out of the pit lane. We almost had I committed to it and then I can't remember who it was. Ericsson and
Maldonado and Gutierrez.
Oh, I was nowhere near it. I got both of them.
Don't worry, I'll get it right for you, Jack. Hey?
That's it. Maldonado and Gutierrez back in 2014, 15, 16,
15 or 16, yeah.
17. At some point
in the past,
2 drivers crashed.
Maldonado and one other. Yes.
2014. It was 2014. Lap 38 of 57, but that didn't happen anyway. The 2 Alpines ride together on track. In fact, Esteban Ocon is going to try and overtake Fernando Alonso here. Alonso's having a little look in his mirrors as they come down into the first corner. Ocon to the inside, and he gets ahead of Alonso and up into 10th place. They're vying over the final points paying. No, they're vying over 9th and 10th, aren't they, now that Zhou Guanyu has pitted. So Tsunoda is 11th. This is the order. Leclerc, Verstappen, Sainz, Perez, Hamilton, the top 5. Russell, Magnussen, Gasly, Zhou, Alonso, the top 10. I'll go with that again. Leclerc, Verstappen, Sainz, Perez, Hamilton, the top 5. Russell, Magnussen, Gasly, Ocon, Alonso, the top 10. Then Tsunoda in 11th, Bottas 12th, Stroll 13th, Zhou 14th, Schumacher 15th, Norris, Hülkenberg, Albon, Ricciardo and Latifi, the 20 runners. Lanu says Stroll and Kvyat in 2017 also had a similar collision like that coming out of the pit lane. I think I remember that actually. Stroll coming out, but we are on lap 39 of 57. 3 seconds now, the gap between Leclerc and Verstappen. I'm also surprised just how far they've got ahead of their teammates, to be honest. 15 seconds up the road is a big old stretch, especially considering how hard they were battling at times. I mean, I guess when they were battling, they were both getting DRS here and there, which would have helped a little, but they're in a league of their own, those two.
Those two have been the standout performers of the weekend so far, Jack, haven't they? I mean, when we've watched Leclerc and Verstappen on track, they certainly seemed the most hooked up of everybody through the free practice sessions. So it's not really a surprise. I'm surprised that Sergio Perez is as close to Sainz as he is. I'm also, a bit alarmed at their decision on the soften when they came in, but it is, 20 seconds between cars that are identical is a lot of time.
Hashtag BBC F1. Simon Baker says, I'm glad that Verstappen's ominous race pace shown on Friday hasn't amounted to him dominating. This is an intriguing season opener. I think that's a good way of describing it so far, Simon.
Absolutely. We're kind of learning a bit of a pecking order, aren't we? We've, Ferrari, Red Bull, fine. Then Mercedes are next best and in their own little battle. Kevin Magnussen's hanging on to, 7th place, fantastic. AlphaTauri look okay, and then Alpine's bringing up the end of the top 10.
Jenny Gow.
Yeah, just enjoying this racing, actually. There's so many battles going on up and down the field, and I just wonder if you guys thought that the racing going on maybe behind the front 4 or 5 is actually decent stuff.
It is decent. I mean, Bahrain is always quite a decent race, and you tend to see a lot of on-tracks because of the on-track overtaking, because of the strategy divergence and people coming through on different compounds and whatever. But what encouraged me was that the Leclerc-Verstappen fight. Again, it's good because of the nature of the circuit does lend itself well to overtaking, but they were able to follow reasonably well through the twisty bits for Verstappen to stay close enough. It
certainly seems like the mid-pack has been more frantic, a lot more overtaking, and bar those crazy couple of laps between Leclerc and Verstappen, I feel like the front 4 is right now settling into a bit of a game of chess. Like, what's going to happen next? It's bubbling beneath the surface, whereas from probably 8th down, it's no holds barred. Everybody's going at it hammer and tongs. It's been great.
Tsunoda gets ahead of Alonso. So Yuki Tsunoda in the AlphaTauri, who was knocked out in Q1 and as a result started quite a way down the order. It was 17th, 16th on the grid for Tsunoda, but he's now managed to get back up into 10th position, and there's only one car between he and his teammate Gasly.
Well, remember in FP3 Saturday morning, he didn't go out. He didn't drive at all before qualifying because he had a hydraulic failure with the steering. So he didn't qualify very well. When you don't drive in free practice 3, the only session of the day before qualifying, it's very difficult then to make an impact on your qualifying laps. So he's having a great race. Difficult day on qualifying day, but he's coming through nicely today.
After improving quite a bit at the end of last year, Yuki Tsunoda, having had a difficult middle of the season, started very well here in Bahrain, and then drifted away in the middle of the year and came back fairly strongly. Lap 41 of 57. Sainz is still in a strong position here. Perez closed in on that last lap by 1/10 of a second, and you get the feeling that even if Perez manages to catch Sainz, the tyres will be basically gone by then anyway.
Yeah, I'm confused by that decision.
No, I know, and I was winding you up.
I was just pointing at the screen for Jack to look at something, and what I wanted to point out to him was Lando Norris has just got lapped by 3rd and 4th place. Now, This is not where McLaren would want to be, Jack. They're a team that were on the up from their struggles with Honda when Fernando was there and the whole GP2 engine debacle. They had a great season last year. They won a race at Monza, a 1-2. Lando should have won in Russia. So for them to come to this new era and have such a difficult day is very difficult to swallow for the Woking-based team.
Really, really difficult, because even when qualifying didn't go according to plan yesterday, you sort of thought they would go forwards in the Grand Prix, but Norris has gone backwards.
Well, I thought that they would. Yeah, I hoped that they'd go, okay, well, you know, Mick Schumacher and the Alfa Romeos and maybe the Alpines, they could fight with, or at least be towards the front of all of that mid-pack, but it hasn't been the case.
Jenny?
Yeah, this is disastrous, really, for all those fans of McLaren, and there are so many of them. Last year, you'd look at the grandstands, they were either full of Max Verstappen fans in orange or the papaya orange of McLaren, and I really mean it. There's so many people have fallen in love with McLaren. The story last year was so romantic. This is a team of such legendary status, and they looked like they were coming back, and they've turned up at this test, and something has gone horribly wrong over their winter to have enabled them to come with a car that just cannot offer them anything, it seems like. We talk about Mercedes failures coming into this race with 15 laps to go, but McLaren, powered by Mercedes.
Well, that was going to be my question, Jenny, because
great minds think alike.
because McLaren, we've heard a lot about the brakes and that sort of stuff that they've been struggling with, but the bottom 6 cars in this race are all powered by Mercedes. It's McLaren, Aston Martin, Williams, McLaren, Williams, Aston Martin in the bottom 6 spots. Mercedes themselves are miles away, but again, the reasoning for Mercedes being off the pace is supposedly the porpoising and such. It's a very slow pit stop, meanwhile, for Lando Norris as he comes into the pits, 5.5 seconds, so the pit stop's not going great for McLaren either. But is there something in that all the Mercedes cars are struggling? Because that's not the narrative, I would suggest.
Jack, I just wonder, thinking about that, the Mercedes is such a radically different car to all of the others out there. It looks so different. They've obviously gone with a very fundamental design concept, and the engine for them seems there or thereabouts. Toto Wolff yesterday saying it's okay.
And we have less deck than Verstappen.
Leclerc being told he's got less degradation on his tyres than Verstappen. But yes, Jenny, Toto Wolff saying the engine in the Mercedes is okay.
Yeah, and I wonder if you take that engine, which is designed for that car, and you know, the philosophy that they have, and then put that in the other cars, if it all together comes out to the sum of not very good.
Yeah, it does seem a bit of a coincidence. Right, Red Bull are getting ready in the pit lane. They're sprinting out into the pit lane because Max Verstappen is coming in again. From second place, Max Verstappen is putting on a set of soft tyres to try and attack Charles Leclerc in the closing stages. Now, he's going to come out ahead of Sainz. No, he's going to come out behind Sainz, so he's got to get ahead of Sainz. But they're pushing Ferrari here to make a choice. You've got to pit Charles Leclerc now and maybe get undercut, or you've got to leave him out and hope that Verstappen doesn't catch you come the end of the Grand Prix. Verstappen have taken the fight to Ferrari here. They have not settled for second place.
It was an interesting call, and that now brings Perez back into the fight for third place by doing that. Because Carlos Sainz has got to make a decision now. Perez is going to be miles faster than Sainz. Leclerc's got to make the decision as well. Is the pace deficit going to be that much that Leclerc has to come in? I'm not sure.
Mate, my steering wheel is suddenly very heavy. Oh my god, someone's locked.
I didn't quite catch that. If you did, hashtag BBC F1, let me know what he said, because it sounded all a bit, it's mate, something about happy. That's all I got. Verstappen then out in third place, Jenny, and time to charge.
Absolutely, and we know he said he didn't want to go steady Eddie when he went out on an outlap, did he? He complained about that before, saying we went too gently on the outlap. We've got to change tyres and go full hard committed. So what can Verstappen do? What can Perez do? What can Sainz and Leclerc do?
Ferrari are staying out. Ferrari are not responding, and that was their only... Well, as I say that, they all come running out into the pit lane, but Leclerc's gone through. So Leclerc's gone through, so they're going to pit Sainz then, presumably.
I almost got steer.
Let me know if you need to box, Max.
No, just tell me what's wrong. I'll try to handle it.
Okay, so there's something wrong with Verstappen's car by the sounds of it. They're saying, let us know if you need to box. Is the wheel not quite on correctly? Out of the pits now goes Carlos Sainz. So they've brought Carlos Sainz in and kind of got him out of the way of Verstappen. So that's an interesting decision from Ferrari. Verstappen is now coming up through turn 3, and we'll keep an eye on his lap times compared to Charles Leclerc. At the line that time, he was 27 seconds behind. It's a very slow pit stop for Lewis Hamilton. They couldn't get the left front on properly, and he's lost about a second and a half. So we all get mixed up again here in Bahrain. Charles Leclerc leads. Verstappen is now second, and that potentially troublesome Sainz has moved out of the way. So Sainz is now back and is still ahead of Perez, having made another pit stop, I think, here, Carlos Sainz. So lap 45 and 57. I'm trying to get my head around this stuff. Jenny, Verstappen?
Yeah, so Verstappen said, I almost can't steer. He was asked, let me know if you need to box. I won't repeat exactly what he said. He just says, just tell me what's wrong and how to handle it. Tell me if something is loose or not. And the engineer said negative for the moment.
And he's setting the fastest lap of the Grand Prix at the moment. The gap is 25.7 seconds with 11 laps to go.
Max, is the wheel heavy in both directions, so both left hand and right hand?
Everywhere. It's not even smooth.
And Pierre Gasly is out of this race. Pierre Gasly's AlphaTauri is on fire on the exit of turn 3. That will almost certainly bring out the safety car, and Leclerc will have a chance to pit under the safety car and potentially hold off that Verstappen attack. So Pierre Gasly is out of the car. The AlphaTauri parked up at the side of the road. The virtual safety car is currently deployed, so it may not be a full safety car necessary. I would guess that it will be, but we'll have to wait and see. No, full safety car deployed. Full safety car deployed. And when will Verstappen catch Leclerc? Will Leclerc be able to get around and make his pit stop in time before the rest of the field is backed up? Jenny Gao.
Yeah, to come in under a safety car is about half the time of a pit stop that it would usually take. So instead of 24 seconds, it would be about 12 seconds under the virtual safety car or safety car.
George Russell coming into the pits to take advantage of that now. Charles Leclerc is just coming around turns 11 and 12. Now, the good thing for Leclerc is that everybody has to run to a specific lap time. It's not as though he's already picked up the safety car, so that gap vanishes. Verstappen can't just whoosh catch up to him before he gets to the safety car. So Leclerc should be able to cover this off. I mean, it's terrible timing really for Red Bull, that.
Yeah, it's not a free pit stop, but it's as good as for Charles Leclerc. He can come in, relax. He will be leading after his pit stop. Let's see what happens to Pierre Gasly as we go on board with him. Looks like all the engines just had a very big hiccup, Jack. That's not nice.
No, so Gasly grinding to a halt. Safety car deployed. Where is Charles Leclerc? He's coming into the pits now then. Into the pits comes the Ferrari. The medium tyres will come off. The soft tyres will go on. They've been very good on the pit stops throughout the whole race, Ferrari, and they have been again. So Leclerc will emerge in the lead of the Grand Prix. Verstappen will still be second. Sainz will be third with Perez fourth. Now, so Perez and Sainz both made another pit stop. I was surprised they brought Sainz in because they left him out and then Red Bull brought Perez in. It felt as though if they'd have left Sainz out, he would have been in a stronger position and up into second place.
And knowing what we know now with what's just happened with Gasly, then Verstappen.
Just keep checking what it can be. If something is stuck or whatever.
Yeah, copy.
So Verstappen's got those steering issues that he's struggling with as well. That 47 of 57, 11 laps to go. Catherine says, if we're enjoying Sam Bird on hashtag BBC F1, is it appropriate for him? Is it appropriate to fan boost him in the next Formula 3 race?
Yes, it is.
Okay,
absolutely.
Just checking whether that's appropriate or not.
Yep.
And that probably isn't appropriate BBC-wise, but
it doesn't matter. It's appropriate for me. So yes, of course you can, my dear.
Hashtag BBC F1 if you want to get in touch. We're under the safety car now with Leclerc in the lead.
So Magnussen is the only one inside the top 13 currently that's on the medium tyre. Everybody else behind him is on the soft. Everybody in front of him is on the soft as well. The pack's going to pack up, Jack. He might be in trouble.
The safety car car is deployed here in Bahrain. We've got 10 laps to go. Charles Leclerc is leading. Max Verstappen is second. Verstappen had just put on new tyres to try and attack Leclerc when Pierre Gasly's AlphaTauri burst into flames, and he is out of the Grand Prix. So the safety car is out, but when the racing gets going again, the order will be Leclerc, Verstappen, Sainz, Perez, Hamilton and Russell, the top 6, all on new soft tyres, all with a 10-lap sprint. Full commentary on Sports Extra.
So Leclerc is at the moment in the lead of this race behind the safety car, with Verstappen behind him, Sainz and then Perez. Perfect timing for Leclerc.
Okay, Max, so steering update. We are staying out. We don't believe it's a reliability concern at this stage. We can go through it a bit later.
Okay, so Verstappen being told with your steering problem, it's not a reliability problem, but we're not going to tell you what it is on the radio because then everyone will know.
Yeah, so there's an issue. Let's talk about it later. Let's not tell everyone. Oh, as Charles Leclerc nearly runs into the back of the safety car.
Very close there. Back to you, Jenny.
Yeah, that was a bit dodgy, wasn't it? I was just going to say, if more team radio, of course.
Come on, the safety car needs to go quicker in the straight. It gives him a big disadvantage by going slow like this.
Copy that.
So they want Charles Leclerc wants the safety car to go a little bit quicker. Let's go down to Jenny Gao.
Let's try it again, shall we? It's Gasly's car that's stricken on the side of the road as the leaders just go past it, and the safety car. That's the AlphaTauri, of course, powered by the same power unit that is run in the Red Bull. And I just wonder how will it play into Red Bull's hands now that they've had this pit stop. Leclerc's been able to make the most of it, as we see a replay of him almost running into the back of the safety car again. But the way that fate helps people along in a championship. I said to Charles Leclerc yesterday, Jack, will you need good fortune if you're going to win this championship? And he said, I don't believe in luck, but it is clear drivers do need a little sprinkling of good fortune if they're going to try and win a championship.
I'm not going to jinx this, Jenny or Jack, but I'm saying the order that we see right now, that we've seen for all race of the top 4, it's not going to end like that at the end of the race. I think that something's going to happen over these last 9 laps, especially with a safety car restart.
Yeah, it's going to be really, really fascinating, isn't it? It is Leclerc. They'll give you the full order now. Everyone's made their stops. The lapped cars, everyone will be delighted to learn that all of the lapped cars have been allowed to overtake the safety car. Leclerc leading. Verstappen second. Sainz third. Perez fourth. Then the 2 Mercedes, Hamilton and Russell, 5th and 6th. Kevin Magnussen in 7th in the Haas. 8th is Valtteri Bottas in the Alfa Romeo. 9th is Esteban Ocon in the AlphaTauri. 10th is Mick Schumacher. Double points positions at the moment for the Haas team. I don't know where Mick came from. He must have, maybe he didn't pit behind the safety car or something like that, because he has popped into the party in 10th place. Yuki Tsunoda in 11th place. 12th for Fernando Alonso. 13th, Zhou Guanyu. 14th, Lance Stroll. 15th is Alex Albon. Then it's Ricciardo and Norris in 16th and 17th. 18th for Nicholas Latifi. 19th for Nico Hülkenberg. And Pierre Gasly out of the Grand Prix. They still haven't really moved Pierre Gasly's car at the moment, so we will see whether they do move it. It's a very hot fire in the back of Gasly's car. The whole side of that, obviously it's a hot fire, don't at me, but the bodywork had all sort of bubbled and melted along the side there. The car is still at the side of the track, but they are moving it now, so this might be the last lap behind the safety car. Might get the safety car in this lap. Go on then, Jenny.
If that is not in a certain publication this week coming on, I don't know when you'll ever make that publication.
I'm in it all the time.
That was absolutely classic.
Yeah, thank you.
It was a thing of beauty. Thank you. Made my day, actually.
Aren't there some fires that aren't hot? Isn't like an electrical fire, like not actually hot or something?
Yeah, it's more difficult to steer with speed.
Copy that, Max.
More and more difficult to steer with speed, says Verstappen.
I'm sure we could do some sort of experiment, Jack, if you're up for it. I'm not sure I would recommend it, though.
No, I don't think that's a correct thing I'm saying, but...
Why did you say it then?
Oh, because there's something. There's something.
Okay, well, that's good.
Sam's looking at me a little perplexed.
I'm just looking at you kind of in amazement. I mean, a fire is a hot thing. I've never heard of a fire not being a hot thing.
Look, I'm bailing out of this. Rob Colley says, "Are Fire's hot debate on hashtag BBC F1?" It's not really much of a debate. I just said something stupid, and now it's now. So the lap cars are being allowed to overtake, and here is some radio from Verstappen.
From what we can see, the situation is stable, so nothing's getting worse. But yeah, it is what it is. You may have to live with it. If it becomes undrivable, then obviously you know the situation.
Just tell us what it is, Red Bull. Clearly there's a steering issue with Verstappen's car. Clearly he's rattled. He's not happy. Now this could work two ways for Max Verstappen. Either he's going to get angry, get the bit between his teeth and go and win this race, or Carlos Sainz and Sergio Perez have the opportunity because he's easy prey.
Yeah, lap 50 of 57, and we'll see what unfolds when the safety car comes in, which is not yet, because they had to let those lap cars overtake. So it may be this lap, potentially, because they let the lap cars, as we all know the safety car procedure now, they let the lap cars overtake once the track is clear, and then the safety car will be coming in this lap. So Stroll, Albon, the McLarens are all pegging it round to try and catch up with the back of the pack, and the safety car will be in this lap at the beginning of lap 51 of 57. So it'll be a 7-lap sprint to the end. Leclerc, Verstappen, Sainz, Perez, Hamilton, Russell, the top 6.
This has worked quite nicely for Mercedes as well, Jack. You know, Hamilton in P5. If anything happens to Verstappen, or if there's any kind of drama between the top 4, Hamilton's there to pick up the pieces.
So that's Sam Bird alongside me in the commentary box here. Safety car is coming in at the end of this lap. They're just coming around the middle sector now, so it'll be another minute or so before the safety car comes in, and then racing will get back underway for the final 7 laps. And when is Leclerc going to floor it as well? Because that's always one of the interesting things, is as a race leader, do you go into a race having decided, in the same way of when you're taking a penalty in football, do you decide you're putting it in the bottom right, or you make it up when you get there? When you're restarting a race, do you decide, right, I'm going on the exit of 13, or I'm going to dilly-dally around to the line, or you wait until you get there?
It's something that you discuss with the team. It's something where you watch replays from previous years as well. We know that the toe effect here is really, really dramatic. So Verstappen's going to have a great chance going into turn 1, unless Charles Leclerc delays it right until the start-finish line, which is where you are allowed to overtake. He might bolt now, but then he's susceptible, or he might wait right until the last minute.
We're about to find out. Racing about to begin again in Bahrain. Verstappen is already up the inside of Leclerc, coming into the final corner, which is an interesting one, but Leclerc then gets on the power. That didn't really work for Verstappen, because he was on a much narrower line, and in fact he's going to be under pressure from Carlos Sainz down towards turn 1. Verstappen covers the inside. Sainz has got a great run on him in the Ferrari, goes to the outside. Our Ferrari going to be 1-2 in the Bahrain Grand Prix. Verstappen holds the inside and holds the position, goes in fairly deep. Sainz is going to try and get the slingshot out through 2, 3, up to 4, and he's got another run on his former teammate at Toro Rosso. Darts to the inside, not close enough. Leclerc holds the lead. Verstappen 2nd, Sainz 3rd, Perez 4th, Hamilton 5th, 6th Russell, Magnussen, Bottas, Ocon, Tsunoda up into 10th place. He's got ahead of Mick Schumacher, and that is now the top 10. Verstappen was sort of being cute into the final corner, but ended up putting him well offline.
I don't think he was cute. He was showing himself on the inside, but what Leclerc did then, he swooped to the apex, took the normal racing line. Verstappen had a tighter radius corner into the last corner, which prevented him from carrying speed or getting an exit, and it gave Sainz the perfect opportunity to have a go.
Lap 51 of 57. Verstappen not able to take the lead of the race away from Charles Leclerc yet, Jenny Gow.
No, I'm hearing it could be power steering issues for Max Verstappen. Pete Bonington, Lewis Hamilton's engineer, has been on the radio and has given us a little bit of a clue.
Okay, very interesting. I mean, that does sort of make sense, doesn't it? But Leclerc coming down into the final corner, and that, even just that attack from Sainz on Verstappen cost Verstappen a little bit of time and means that he's a little further back than he would necessarily be from Leclerc. Across the line, the gap is 1.6 seconds, and then it's 0.6 back to Sainz. So that fight has allowed Leclerc to have quite a big breathing room up at the front, and he's out of DRS territory, which isn't open yet.
Well, instead of Max Verstappen trying to fill Charles Leclerc's mirrors, it's actually Carlos Sainz filling his mirrors. I think that's where the battle's going to be towards the end of this race now.
Side by side for a squabble between Schumacher and Zhou over 12th position. Schumacher holding on to that 12th place, but Zhou is on the attack. Bottas has got up into 8th position in the Alfa Romeo, and he's right behind Kevin Magnussen, as you would expect. Now, can Verstappen start to settle down a little and try and close in on Leclerc? But he doesn't have a tyre advantage, and we've seen pretty much after every pit stop and in every stint so far today that when he is in front, or when Leclerc is in front, he is able to manage that gap fairly well after a few flashes of attack from Verstappen.
Yeah, we had that brilliant 3 laps of wonderful driving from both of them where they went right at it, and it was fantastic. But Charles Leclerc has controlled this race beautifully from the very first lap, Jack.
SJ Harvey says some fires don't burn very hot. For example, the fluid that fire eaters use burns at a lower temperature. And apparently a 50-50 mixture of isopropyl alcohol and water will burn on a rag without even charring the rag. Lap 52 of 57. Leclerc leads across the line. The gap between them 2.1 seconds now. Verstappen in second. Sainz is still within the DRS range. DRS is now enabled, so Sainz is going to be able to put Verstappen under pressure, as you were saying before, Stan.
You're so smug now, aren't you, with your cool fire theory? You didn't know that. Don't pretend like you're all clever.
I said it was an electrical fire. That was absolute nonsense.
So, in my opinion now, the fight is for second place, not for the win. I think that Sainz has a chance of catching Verstappen, and I think Hamilton has a chance. If he can get these soft tyres working for long enough, which is what he couldn't do at the beginning of the race, he could have a chance of attacking Perez.
Were you surprised Sainz couldn't get that move done on the first lap? He was very close. Was he too close? Didn't get the sort of slingshot, as it were?
The Red Bull looked very strong in a straight line. It looked great in the tow behind Charles Leclerc when he activated DRS, and it looked very slippery when he was under pressure as well.
Well, we are on lap 53 of 57 now. Charles Leclerc, who has, well, he's not led the whole way. Verstappen took the lead on a couple of occasions, but he is now holding in front, Charles Leclerc, having started from pole position, looking to take the first win of the 2022 Formula One World Championship season. As we come down the back straight now into the final corner, and has Leclerc ever led the championship? I'm not sure Charles Leclerc's ever been top of the championship, because he was leading the Bahrain Grand Prix here in 2019, but ended up retiring from that one. So I think if Leclerc does take the win, it'll be his first time at the top of the standings. He's 3 seconds now ahead of Max Verstappen. Sainz didn't seem to have DRS there, even though he was within a second.
I expected to see the DRS, wide open, and there was no sign of it. There was no sign of it from the top 4 or 5 drivers, actually.
Here they come now out onto the second straight, and there is DRS now, second time around. Hamilton is also in DRS range of Sergio Perez, so he's got a shot at 4th place, Lewis Hamilton. The order is Leclerc, Verstappen, Sainz, the top 3. Perez, Hamilton, Russell, the top 6. Magnussen, Bottas, Ocon and Tsunoda, the top 10. Alonso, Zhou, Schumacher, Stroll and Albon, the top 15.
Hey, what's going on with the battery?
Battery fine.
No, it's not. I have no real... What the f*** is this?
And Max Verstappen is in big trouble. What's going on with the battery? He's saying he's losing speed because the hybrid system doesn't appear to be working properly. The lights are flashing on the rear of Verstappen's car as they come down into turn 11, and Sainz goes to the inside and gets into second place. Carlos Sainz up into second position now. It's a Ferrari 1-2, and Verstappen appears to have a problem with the car.
The Ferrari mechanics are going absolutely crazy.
Issue, Max. It's not battery related.
What do you want me to do?
There's not a lot we can do.
Red Bull have seen the problem for Verstappen, but they don't know what they can do about it. Verstappen's gone. Verstappen's out of this one. Verstappen's Red Bull is slowing down, and he, having taken the lead on a couple of occasions, is going to be out of the Bahrain Grand Prix. He's grinding to
to make it into the pit lane, please.
And Verstappen's race has fallen away from him. Leclerc leads, Sainz second, Perez third, and now Hamilton is just 2/10 behind Perez. Hamilton is trying to get onto the podium here in the silver Mercedes. Verstappen rumbles into the pit lane. He's got no drive in that car, and his hopes of winning his first race as reigning world champion with the number one on the front of the Red Bull have disappeared. Leclerc leads, Sainz second, Ferrari 1-2. Perez versus Hamilton now is the fight for the final stop on the podium.
Oh my God, Jack. I mean, all the talk this weekend was just Max Verstappen's going to win the race. Max Verstappen is clearly the fastest guy, and here we are at the end of race one. Max Verstappen leads Bahrain with no points.
Such drama with 2.5 laps to go now. Let's focus on Perez and Hamilton, because there was just 4/10 between them as they came across the line. Listen to this. This is Sainz's engine as he went past Verstappen and got up the inside into the left-hander, and then the car completely died. Where are they now? Hamilton behind Perez as they come through the right-hander of turn 13, down towards turn 14. He's very, very close here, Hamilton, to Sergio Perez. In fact, he is very close to Sergio Perez. This is going to be a real opportunity to get ahead.
I'm losing power. We've got 2 laps to go.
And Perez saying he's losing power too. Here comes Hamilton across the line. The DRS is open. They flash underneath our commentary box from right to left, up to almost 200 miles an hour into turn 1. Hamilton not close enough this time around to make the move into the first corner. Gets on the power now though as they run him into 4.
Got it. Elbows out.
Perez being told, get your elbows out. He got his elbows out against Hamilton in Turkey last year. He got his elbows out against Hamilton in Abu Dhabi last year. This is for a podium finish, and we have got 1.5 laps to go in the Bahrain Grand Prix, Sandberg.
It's all kicked off at the end. What did I say under the safety car? It's not going to be the order, and that's I'm stunned that the Red Bull has been the fragile car. Absolutely stunned.
So here they come down into the final couple of corners. Lap 56 of 57, out onto the back straight. DRS open for Hamilton as he tries to close in into turn 11. Now coming into turn 13 and back down into 14. And this is going to be pretty much the penultimate opportunity for Hamilton to try and get him into third position. This race looks like it's going to be won by Charles Leclerc, but Max Verstappen, the reigning champion, has just retired. His Red Bull broke down with 3 laps to go. So it's a Ferrari first and second. Leclerc ahead of Sainz. Sergio Perez is third for Red Bull, but Lewis Hamilton is right behind him. He spent most of this Grand Prix in 5th place, Hamilton, but he can now see a podium finish. Oh, Perez spins. Perez has spun all by himself at the first corner. This race has turned into a disaster for Red Bull. They're not going to score any points. Perez is facing backwards at the first corner. Leclerc leads, Sainz second, Ferrari first and second, and it is now Mercedes third and fourth. Sam Bird, the Formula E driver, alongside me in the commentary box here in Bahrain, as Perez made a mistake. The car's died. The car's died on him.
King engine.
Perez's engine completely died at the first corner on the final lap.
I mean, it's a present for Mercedes. What a shocking day for Red Bull. What an amazing day for Ferrari, and what an incredible result for Haas with Kevin Magnussen.
Magnussen 5th. Mick Schumacher has fallen out into 11th place, but the race leader Charles Leclerc, who qualified on pole position yesterday, he led away at the front. Max Verstappen attacked him after the first round of pit stops. Leclerc fought back. Verstappen attacked him after the second round of pit stops. Leclerc fought back, and he was in control of this Grand Prix, even when Max Verstappen's car broke down with 3 laps to go. Leclerc through the final corner, weaves from left to right. The checkered flag falls. It's a win for Charles Leclerc. It's a 1-2 for Ferrari, and the Scuderia are back in force and take the lead of both championships at the start of the 2022 Formula One World Championship season with victory in Bahrain. Hamilton across the line in third, fourth for George George Russell in the Mercedes, an unbelievable result for them. Magnussen 5th in the Haas, Bottas, Ocon, Tsunoda, Alonso and Zhou the rest of the top 10. But what a turnaround. Red Bull, most people's favourites, or joint favourites with Ferrari coming into this race. The reigning champion Max Verstappen, both cars out in the last 2 laps of the Grand Prix.
I'm shocked. Are you shocked? Because I'm absolutely shocked at the end of that race. Clearly, both cars had the same issue at exactly the same time, in my opinion. You had Max Verstappen, obviously, happening a couple of laps before, and then Sergio Perez's engine just violently let go.
And P1.
Let's go! Let's go! Come on! That's exactly how we should start a season. Come on! 1-2, baby! 1-2! Yeah!
Sei un grande.
Volevamo lottare, Charles, hai lottato più di tutti, sei un campione, veramente, bravo, bravo, bravo.
Grazie Mattia, ragazzi, grazie davvero, siete dei grandi, siete veramente dei grandi. Mamma mia.
Charles Leclerc on the radio for Ferrari. Mattia Binotto coming on and speaking Italian to him, the team principal at Ferrari. A 1-2 for the red cars. Leclerc ahead of Sainz. Leclerc leads the championship after the opening race of the season. And it's started just as excitingly as it finished, Steve. Well, the fireworks thundering around. And what a remarkable ending to that race, Jenny.
Absolutely speechless, although we're not, because we work in the radio, so that makes it a little awkward if we are. But the Ferrari mechanics and engineers have run down to be on the side of Parc Ferme. I've run with them. They've got the tricolor waving above them. They are delighted.
And P2, good job. 1-2, nice job. What a start of the season.
Bravi tutti, bravi. Forza Ferrari, a difficult weekend for me, but we will come back stronger. Let the bad weekends be P2. Bye.
Forza Ferrari indeed, Jenny.
What an absolute twist of fate that was. You can hear the cheers ring out around me, maybe as the #1 little placard is dinked by the car of Charles Leclerc. Yes, he's won races before, but this will be something very special for the young Monegasque. He last won in 2019, Belgium and Italy. That Italy win was something special, but this is a moment, isn't it? This is a moment where we see Leclerc coming out of the car as the fireworks launch all around me into the dark night sky here in Bahrain. The cheering around as he stands on his car. The Tifosi, they are back, and the whole of Italy will be buzzing with the fact that Leclerc has won this race, that Ferrari could be here to challenge. And look at that. Yes, it's Leclerc as he goes down by his mechanics and hugs everybody. It's Sainz in second place. Hamilton has finished from Mercedes in third, with George Russell in fourth, and no points scored for Red Bull. Jack, this is such a crucial moment at the start of a championship, and no one would have predicted it.
Well, that's the thing. It's a long way to go. 23 races, 22 to go now. But only one retirement before the final 3 laps. That was Pierre Gasly. And then both Red Bulls retiring. No one else did. And we've spoken before, if Mercedes have a fixable problem with their car, they have a problem with their car. If it's fixable soonish, the question was going to be, how soon can they fix it? How far behind will they be behind the front runners by the time they kind of get on top of it? Results like today are huge for Mercedes in trying to keep up in that fight, and it's huge for Ferrari, a 1-2 in the opening race of the season.
I've got to say, I'm absolutely thrilled for Ferrari, having worked with them for so many years. Ferrari isn't just a car manufacturer in Italy, it's a religion. And hats off to Charles Leclerc and Carlos Sainz for bringing home a 1-2 for the Tifosi.
So bravo are the shouts as Leclerc and Sainz all hug their mechanics and engineers together. Then they hug each other. The Italian flags waving, the prancing horse flags waving as well, in the year that they're celebrating their 75th anniversary, Ferrari. They have taken a 1-2 in the opening race of the season, and we will now hear, well, in a moment, we're going to hear from our race winner, Charles Leclerc. He's not taken his helmet off yet. He's just sitting down on a stool, removing his lid, pulling off his balaclava now, and a big hug between Hamilton and Leclerc, and Hamilton and Sainz as well. Goes over and congratulates the two of them. Leclerc still just sitting down. Now he jumps up onto his feet. I'm sure the TV people are trying to rush him over to have a little word with Martin Brundle, but now a little debrief between the two of them. And you can still hear the Ferrari mechanics cheering and enjoying themselves, as you might expect. And he puts on his hat and finally makes his way over to the interview area. So we will hear from our top three, starting with race winner Charles Leclerc, speaking to Martin Brundle, having won the opening race of the 2022 Formula One World Championship season. Superb performance from Leclerc.
Charles, congratulations. Pole position, fastest lap, victory, driver of the day. What a dream start to the season.
So happy. I mean, again, I keep repeating myself, but the last 2 years have been incredibly difficult for the team, and we knew this was going to be a big opportunity for the team, and the guys have done such an incredible job giving us and building this amazing car. So for now, it's starting in the best way possible. Pole position, victory, fastest lap, 1-2 today with Carlos. We couldn't hope for better. So thank you to all of you guys that kept supporting us in the past 2 years. It hasn't been easy, but it's incredible to be back at the top.
Now, Max had tremendous straight line speed down the pit straight to overtake you, and then you were very aggressively coming back at him. It was really exciting to watch.
Yeah, I was trying to be as clever as possible, using the DRS as much as possible. So I was trying to brake early in turn one, just to be behind him at the DRS detection, and twice it worked out. So I took back my first position, and just incredibly happy that we made it work.
Did your heart sink a little bit when the safety car came out? You're thinking, not now?
I didn't want it now, but then I did a great restart, and that gave me a little bit of margin to then manage my race until the end.
Well done, congratulations again. We're just waiting for second place man Carlos Sainz. Carlos, congratulations, tenacious as ever, and you're rewarded with second place and a 1-2 for Ferrari.
Yeah, well, first of all, congrats to Charles, congrats to Ferrari. Ferrari is back and is properly back, no? With a 1-2 and where the team should have been all the last 2 years, but the hard work is paying off, and we are there. For me, it's been a very tricky weekend. I'm not gonna lie, I didn't have the pace today, but I managed to hold into there and bring the 1-2 for the team. Have some homework to do over these next few days, and I'm sure I'll come back stronger.
You're being quite hard on yourself, but when did you realise you might be getting past Max? Did you sense that he was driving a wounded car?
At the restarts, I had a strong chance because I had a very clean restart behind Charles and Max. He defended well, to be fair, and then suddenly I started seeing some flashing red lights on the back of his car, and I said, okay, this is my chance, no? And I went for it. He was unfortunate. I think today he was driving well enough to get P2, but I had a good run on him, and then he had to retire. So it's what it is, and it's good for Ferrari.
Well done. Congratulations again. Lewis, still you rise. You didn't have the ultimate pace today, but you still managed to get up on the podium.
Yeah, firstly, a big congratulations to Ferrari. So happy to see them doing well again, and they're such a historic, epic team. So it's great to see them. It's great to see Carlos and Charles up there as well. So congratulations to them. I think it was such a difficult race. We've struggled throughout practice. This is really the best result we could have got, and of course it was unfortunate for the other two drivers, but we did the best we could, and we're grateful for these points.
And have you got lots of new parts coming for this Mercedes W13 where you can get up there on that leading pace?
I'm hoping. I know the guys are working really hard. back at the factory, and it's not going to be a quick turnaround. But I know that we all know as a team. I do feel like we've been the best unified team for so long. I know that we all know that just keep your head down, keep working. There's a long way to go.
A great damage limitation today, so you're going to go to bed satisfied tonight, I think.
Yeah, for sure. Hi to the crowd.
Well done.
A glint in Lewis Hamilton's eyes as he smiles at the fans, then goes to embrace Carlos Sainz, and I think that's a really happy podium. I think Carlos Sainz is incredibly harsh on himself, and he'll want to be there to rival Charles Leclerc, not just to make up the numbers, not to be a number 2 driver. But Sam, your first race with us in the commentary box, and I think it was probably a worthy one.
It was a really good one, Jenny. I really enjoyed it. I've got a big smile on my face. Lewis Hamilton finishing 3rd, like he said, I think that's the best result he could have wished for. And dare I say it, I think that's probably his best, that'll be his most favourite 3rd place since his opening race in his Formula 1 career, where he came 3rd in Australia. Because it was unfancied. He was not expected to finish on the podium. Mercedes will go away from this feeling energised that they can now start to make progress and try and gain ground back on Ferrari and Red Bull. But what a difficult day for Red Bull.
Absolutely disastrous day for Red Bull when it comes to this championship. But the highs and lows of motorsport, Jack, are what keeps us enthralled. And whilst Verstappen and Perez have a dog of a day, you look at Ferrari, you look at the Tifosi with massive smiles on their faces for the first time in what feels like a very long time. And this has just been a real shake-up with these new regulations.
Yeah, it has. I mean, Ferrari have been threatening it, haven't they? They built a pretty decent car last year because but they just didn't have the engine speed, basically. You know, they would qualify well, but then just disappear in the races because of the straight line speed disadvantage. So they've been on the way back for a while, but a 1-2 finish is just superb for them. Really exciting for Formula One. They're the biggest. They're the most iconic car brand in the world. And so I think it's really good that they're back up there. Leclerc and Sainz, championship contenders this season. It's great to have new people involved in that fight too. So, just a brilliant day. But obviously not for Red Bull. Such drama.
Yeah, Toto Wolff is standing here under the podium, smiling, clapping. The fans have come onto the track, the few of them that are allowed to. What a great start to the season. Make sure you download the Checkered Flag podcast. You can subscribe to it so it drops into your inbox as soon as it's done. This has been an IMG production for BBC Radio 5 Live. It's Saudi next week.